With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Welcome to Mount Panorama for the penultimate round of the PRL GT3 Sprint and Fixed Series. Here it's Tuesday night. It's the best night of the week, if you ask me. It is two GT3 races back to back, and we're looking forward to hosting Bathurst here once again in this great championship. Myself, Ewan O'Leary, and Darragh Thacker with you for another 35 minutes of the Fixed Series and 40 minutes in the Sprint Series later on as well, in some pretty gloomy conditions to start with. It's the mountain, Darragh. There's few places on earth better to come racing here, especially in GT3 machinery, as it's proved year after year. Thoroughly looking forward to this one, placed so crucially towards the end of the season as well.
Yeah, and a track that I think some of these drivers will have got a little bit of practice at over the weekend, of course, with the Bathurst 12-hour happening just a couple of days ago. Really intriguing to have it at this point in the season as well, with, you know, difficulties that we often see over the top of the mountain, drivers struggling to go side by side through there. However, you know, moves are going to have to be made. You can't really afford a bad week this week if you're chasing a title, if you're chasing a good championship finish. It's almost perfectly poised.
Certainly is. There's the penultimate round of the championship. We'll be starting just after 8 this morning in Sim. That's a February date, so it's going to be a little bit sunrise, but shouldn't really be. The days are still pretty long around here in Australia at this time of year for hemispheric reasons, so it shouldn't be too dark, although the fog has really come over by the looks of what we just saw. Let's have a look at the standings going into this round, and it is Brett Thurman who's now leading the way by some distance ahead of Jason Park. 33 points the margin, with Ricardo Delgado third place, 50 points behind. David Busterford and Sully Sad tied for fourth place at the moment, with Andrew Trickett next. Then Jay Steffi another 5 points further behind. Jared Keane, Dale Pedersen, Tyler Graff round out the top 10. Thurman very much with the advantage there. And Colin McKenzie with the advantage here. 34 points at a peak measure, with another big gap back to Nick Bruno. Luke Davis a further 10 points back in fourth, with Regan Chandler rounding out the top 5. Ian Southern, Aaron Sunday are next to Thomas Rep, Joe Piguero, Neil Alexander. They round out the AM standings. Then in the teams, which is probably the most interesting one to look at next week, SRT Orange just 34 points ahead of Lunatic Racing, with Riot Motorsports within 70 points of the championship as well. SGE Esports are just fourth ahead of P&O Cartomania by a small margin. Sim Racing PR are sixth ahead of Parabella Cobalt, with E3 Motorsport, VHR Racing and Tachyon Simsport rounding out the team's standings. Let's deal with the pros first as foremost. Darragh, 33 points between Brett Thurman and the rest at the moment. Jason Park next. Ricardo Delgado in a situation today, along with David Busterford and Sully Sad, where actually they've got to not lose too many points on Brett Thurman, otherwise they won't be able to win the championship mathematically next week, even if Thurman DNFs. That's such a desperate situation for those 5 drivers in particular.
Yeah, and it's been so difficult to catch up to Brett Thurman when he's been, so metronomically consistent. Every single round that he is picking up in terms of the points standings is a podium finish. He's dropping, of course, round 2 where he struggled back at Daytona, but it's been incredible to see how well he's done since then, just to keep himself right at the sharp end. And every time I interview him, he just seems so calm and collected about it. It's incredible.
In the AM standings, Colin McKenzie's leading the way by a good 34 points. Now, it's unlikely that mathematically that will be put out the question here tonight because, realistically, the AM drivers can win overall and then gain 55 points or whatever at the end of the day. Not realistic, of course. It's never happened before where an AM has won a race overall. But it's a big advantage for Colin McKenzie, and we wouldn't expect anything less from him, really. He's won again last week, gaining another 7 points over Pete Measure, finishing in the top 10. And in fact, he's finished in the top 10 more times than he hasn't, actually, in the 7 rounds so far. So, thoroughly deserving championship leader, and he looks like he's got one hand on the trophy at the moment.
Yeah, it's been really impressive to see the ability of him to be able to get right towards the sharp end every single week and really put himself into a position where it's almost insurmountable, the gap that he has, particularly when points are not necessarily going to be won further back in the order.
In the team standings, as we've seen before, 24 points is the gap between SRT Orange and Lunatic Racing. I said 34 in the standings, didn't I? I meant 24. Don't try and do the maths on the fly. It's the team made up, by the way, of Brett Furman and Jared Keane for the SRT Orange team. Lunatic Racing is made up of David Busterford and Colin McKenzie. Doesn't help, I suppose, that one of Lunatic Racing's key aspects is an AM driver. But, McKenzie's a really good driver, as you can see there. 5th place currently in this qualifying session right now. I think SRT Orange do have one hand on that trophy as well, but, they've still got to do the work here. Brett Furman, 6th place currently in this session. Jared Keane, 10th. David Busterford is 9th with McKenzie 5th. So it's very close. In fact, I think they'd be just a couple of points gained by Lunatic Racing if the race were to end as they've currently qualified. So, it's absolutely not over for the Teams Championship. And I think next week that might actually be our primary focus other than the Drivers' Championships. I think the Teams Championship could be closer.
It absolutely could be, and there's with the contenders that we have, they've been racing towards the front. Whether it's Colin McKenzie in that AM class or whether it's some of the front runners in the Pro class, in a way that allows them to almost separate themselves out from the rest of the pack. There's been a couple of times where the SRT Orange team have been able to gain a bit of a march in qualifying and get away at the front. Teamwork's been really important. I wonder if any of that will come into play in the final couple of weeks, or whether the drivers will be separated enough that they almost can't work together as a team in a way that would really benefit them. It's going to be intriguing. But when it comes down to these fine margins with only a couple of rounds in the season, this is where that ability to work together as a team could be so critical, and I'm sure they'll be looking to do it tonight if possible.
That's not representative time for Jay Steffi. He's just setting himself up for a lap here, and he's only got 3 more to go if he's going to use them all. This is Dale Pedersen through the chase. He's currently 13th. Doesn't seem to be going any quicker, and he will pull into pit lane. Jason Park seems to be the only one from the top 10 who's really pushing it at the moment. He's only 100th of a second off of Tyler Graff, who's currently got the pole position. There is Jason Park, though, as you can see, still very early on in the lap. And our first chance, maybe, or one of the early chances here to have a look over the top of the mountain. I think you are right that a lot of these drivers will have had plenty of practice over the weekend with the 12-hour going on. And iRacing, a special event, of course, happening on the weekend just gone.
It's always perfectly timed as well, isn't it, with this race incoming as well. It's a bit Bathurst crazy. Of course, we went Daytona crazy, didn't we? That's not the right line. Oh, and that's a big hit into the wall. That won't be an improvement from Jason Park. That's pretty much, you can scrap this lap. He's going to have to go again somewhere else. 10 thousandths of a second to gain. Actually make that 139 thousandths of a second to gain because Tyler Graff's gone that little bit quicker now.
He has. And has he put this one out of reach, maybe, for the rest of them? Nikos Sanadakis is certainly hoping not in the Porsche. Got 4 different manufacturers inside the top 4, by the way, or 3 in the top 4, I should say. Porsche, Acura, Corvette at the moment, with Sanadakis also wedged in there in 3rd place in another one of the Porsches that have been pretty well chosen so far this season. Here he comes through the final corner and up towards the line now. Sanadakis is going to go very close. He'll go to the front row there. That's a good time. and it's an all Porsche front row. Cara wasn't expecting to go too well round here, to be honest with you. Thought it would be suffering too much in a straight line to be really good at Bathurst, which does have a lot of straight line speed emphasis, but clearly it's doing okay.
Yeah, good lap time towards the end of the session as well. Will be, definitely positive for Stanilakis. If nothing else, just for him to feel in the car that he is going along pretty nicely. Colin McKenzie, what a season he's having from the AM class. I was setting him up for an improvement there. Coming into the pit lane, he'll have to, he may come out of the Gannery, may have completed his session. 4 minutes to go. Not the longest of times for drivers to get back out and starting a flying lap. Nick Bruno is on a flying lap, and if he wants to get himself in any kind of contention to the championship, this needs to be quite a good one.
And the dipper he goes, needs to get a bit close to the wall on the left-hand side there. You lose a lot of momentum if you get the wrong line there. Delgado goes quicker up to third place, by the way. Here's out of Forest Elbow, where he needed to go exit as well, but he's not got it there. Bruno is, if it is an improvement, then he's still got time on the table, that is for sure, because this has not been a perfect lap for him just yet. Andrew Bonero, Sean Murphy, Sean Mulholland, Mark Sigalo, Ryan Chandler, Andrew Duessy have all not set time so far. For some reason, hoping we get 37 on the grid, but only 31 times as of right now, as Tyler Graff goes quicker again there with another 4.8. It's only ever so slightly quicker than before, but he's putting this one further out of reach of the rest of them by the looks of things, with 3 minutes to go. Here's David Bush the third. Does need an improvement here. He started the session quite well, but hasn't improved since we joined nearly 10 minutes ago now, and so the Audi driver does need to pull something out the bag here in the final couple of minutes, although he has got one more lap after this to give it another go. That's no improvement. So one more time around. Pressure on David Bush here to get up the order a little bit more and join his teammate in being ahead of both the SRT orange cars, which Colin McKenzie is at the moment.
Yeah, it's really impressive to see the competition as close as it is at the front as well, particularly with the lap times that we're seeing. Difficult to nail it over the mountain, but to have lap times that currently have the top 11 within half a second really just shows how close it is and how tight the battles can be here in the PRL, and how difficult it is to win a championship. As we see James Steffi popping up inside the top 5. But with time ticking away now, there's a few drivers in here who really need to improve their lap times. Jared Keane, I think, would want to get himself a little bit up the order. It's uncharacteristic to see Brett Thurman on row number 4. But, how much they can really do is still up in the air. I think they want to be, although they may be driving a little bit safe, that's not driving safe.
Where did Jared King come from? He's just suddenly taken pole position from nowhere. With a minute and a half to go, Jared Keane has gone from, I think he was 11th, to pole position suddenly. Or was he 10th? Anyway, it was a long way down the field, and suddenly he has grasped pole position out of nowhere. A 2:04.7 from him. Is Tyler Graff going to be able to go any quicker and actually jump over him right at the very end? I'm not sure. He's got to find a 10th of a second. And in fact, here he is in the final corner at the moment, Tyler Graff. Is this an improvement at all? No, it's certainly not. It's a 2:06.1. He'll push on, but that's a big surprise from Jared Keane, but a very welcome one for SRT Orange to look like they're taking pole here.
Yeah, and even though it drops Brett Thurman down to 9th, I think Brad will be happy for the team's championship that Jared's got himself onto the original pole. Incredible lap time right towards the end of the session. Completely out of left field, really. We weren't really expecting that to pop in. But fantastic to see the 22 getting himself an absolutely perfect lap. I wonder if there was any teamwork required in that lap, whether Jared nailed every single corner, but looking good for him. Jason Park made a mistake just here on his last attempt. He's nailed it this time. He's got to make sure he nails it right towards the checkered flag, because he needs to find now over a quarter of a second if he wants that pole position.
That was a nice line through there. Just want to get close to the walls here. You can't afford to clip them, otherwise you'll be in trouble with your lap, but you've got to get close to the walls and sort of use a smooth line, if you like, around those corners. Otherwise you'll be too slow compared to the likes of Jared Keane, who looks like he might have taken pole position here in this session. 2:04.7 from him. Jason Park is going to be next over the line, though, to try and go a bit quicker. I think Jared Keane, I think Tyler Graff is giving this a go as well. So we'll get to him once Park has finished his lap time. He will do so first here out of the pair of them. Now out of the chase. It must be an improvement because he carried on with the checkered flag looming. If you weren't going to improve, you'd just come into practice pit lane. But he clearly thinks this is worth pushing on. Brett Furman now has got to second place in a big improvement for him. Jason Park is going to get right behind him in fourth. So it's row 2 for Park at the moment with Tyler Graff. But I think Graff is still out there trying to improve again. And he is indeed still out there in third place. There he is through the chase at the moment. Is this going to be an improvement? It may well be. He's going to carry on and complete the lap, as I mentioned before, with the checkered flag waving. That's a good sign for Tyler Graff. He led this session for a while. He's just clipped the curb at the final corner. How's that cost him? It may have been going away from him anyway. And it is only third. He will not improve. And all of a sudden, at the very end of the session, SRT Orange have pulled it out of the bag.
And absolutely perfectly so. It's incredible that they've been able to cycle their way to the front, but Keane and Thurman can absolutely envisage some teamwork happening towards, during this race, because they have put themselves into an absolutely stellar position. It's almost impossible for Brett Thurman to win the championship tonight mathematically, but he can put pretty much, a hand and 3 fingers onto the trophy by finishing up here towards the front, and the team could nearly win it as well. Absolutely incredible. When the pressure's on, they've delivered in fantastic fashion.
Yeah, I think all that Jason Park needs to do to keep the championships alive is probably finish in the top 20, which he should manage really. But it's certainly a big day as Waldo Walden becomes the final driver to cross the line. We'll just see if he makes any improvement before the session ends. And it doesn't really look like it. So that will be the end of that in terms of this qualifying session. Nick Bruno as well, 19th place for him at the moment. We'll be staying there. And that's a bit of a ways down in the AMs. We'll go through the grid in a little while, but before we get to that, let's thank the sponsors who make these broadcasts possible here on RaceSpotTV in the Precision Racing League. Starting with Logitech G. Logitech G wheels and pedals are equipped with true force feedback to help you feel the road and own the race. You use code PRECISION at checkout on logitechg.com for 5 to 10% off your purchase. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing and designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. Bookkicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And finally, get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. Warm-up will just begin then as we go through that, and we'll have a look at the pole lap as well here on board with Jared Keane, who's taken a pole in a 1-2 here for SRT Orange, and we'll see. Now, I suspected, actually, not having seen the lap, that there was a lot of slipstream involved, but actually that's not his teammate. You know, Furman and Keane working together particularly. Keane looks to have done this completely on his own almost.
Yeah, and really from the cockpit you get a sense of how much this track is straights and the mountain, realistically. It's a very boxy circuit, apart from as you work your way through turn 2. When you work up the mountain, when you work down the other side, of course, it's not as easy just to stick it straight in when you've got, basically cliffs, as you can see to the left-hand side of you, rising up through the cutting. Jared Keane with a very nice line, running it back to the inside. This is, textbook stuff, as you'd expect from a pole lap time, but just keeping up all that speed and all the momentum rising up the hill, threading the needle between the walls, particularly up as you come to McPhillamy Park here, in a way to just keep all the speed and momentum rolling through. Skyline, you want to make sure that you don't use too much of that right-hand side curb, and you can just about see he uses it to steady the car, but he doesn't, put the middle of the car over the corner. So really good to see there. Incredible that he's able to set a pole time this close to the car in front in some very technical parts of the lap.
Yeah, not quite at the distance where you'd be getting in the way just yet, but now maybe. Now you get a whip of slipstream, so this will help a little bit here for Jared Keane, but, you know, this is not defining his lap by any means, the slipstream. Absolutely not defining his lap here. It's Ian Southern, by the way, who was just in front there in the McLaren, and so there would have been words exchanged there if Southern had got in the way, but not this time round. In towards the chase, down on the brakes, downhill. Pretty difficult. Want to be up on that left-hand side curve, then sort of opening it out, if you like, for this right-hand side bit for a run down in towards the final corner. And then the left-hander itself, simple 90 degrees really, at Maurice corner. Important though to get yourself onto the front straight and get yourself in Jared Keane's position at the first fastest time of the session. And that is how he got pole here at Mount Panorama. Let's have a look at the grid and indeed who's behind him here as we carry on with the warm-up session. It is SRT Orange 1-2 with Jared Keane and Brett Furman on the front row. Tyler Graff was in pole for a lot of that session, but dropped to third late on with Jason Park alongside, the closest man to Furman in the championship. Nikos Stanidakis and Ricardo Delgado are on row 3. Jake Steffi and Felix Feliz are next ahead of Colin McKenzie, first of the AMs, and David Bush the third, who is 10th. Sully Sad and Dale Pedersen round off row 6. Pete Measure is next, second in the AM Championship, and he starts 13th of Sean Stecker with Waldo Warden and Kevin Bergquist on an all-Ferrari row 8. It's Luke Davis and Ian Cabana just behind them, as we can start to get to the guys over a second off pole. Nick Bruno and Ian Southern round out the top 20. Buck Hamilton, Neil Alexander on row 11, ahead of Dave Peterson and Christopher Rhines. Next, 25th will be Aaron Sunday with Dave Jensen just in alongside. Thomas Rep and Regan Chandler will be next, although I think Rep spent quite a lot of that session in the pit lane. Robert Jeffries and Sean Duhall are on row 15. Head of Mark Bray, the final driver, to set times. And then Andrew Bonaro, Sean Mulholland, Sean Murphy, Mark Sigalo, Drew Duessy, and also somebody else, Ryan Chandler, didn't set times. Hopefully they do get onto the grid and we see them for this race. But you never know if that lack of lapping qualifying means there'll be a lack of racing from them as well. Well, there's the view over the top of the mountain. The mist, if you want to call it that. It's probably not fog, according to your measurements. But there you go. Just before 9 in the morning, this time of year. 70 degrees Fahrenheit. We should actually see, or you would have expected actually, some hotter temperatures at this time of year for that. But it's a pretty cloudy day and a pretty cool day, which the tyres will be pleased about.
Yeah, it's not going to be one where the tyres are going to be overly pushed in this race. It's only 35 minutes as well. I think it'd be too much of a concern for the drivers, albeit, you know, over the top of the mountain can be a little bit of a tyre killer. The amount of grip that you need in the car, the amount of load that you put through the tyres, particularly diving back down the hill, a lot of marbles that you can get on the circuit, and we saw a lot of marbles during the 12-hour at the weekend. Thankfully, it looks like it should be all under control for the drivers this week, but those little variables, you know, the tyre temperature, all of those little nitty-bitty bits, as you could call it, are going to be important for the drivers to nail down. They can't really, you know, just trust them to be in the working window. They've got to work to make sure they're in the working window, and making sure that the car is set up well towards the final stages of the race could be absolutely crucial.
Yeah, I got a message actually during the 12-hour about the marbles from one of the team members from the eventually winning team, the Marler Racing team, that said the marbles on the outside of every corner are horrendous, and the outside, and then a different message: the outside of any corner is certain death. So that was a problem in terms of overtaking. To be fair, it didn't actually affect the race too badly, but I think a lot of that was created actually from the rain. There's something strange that goes on when the circuit dries out in terms of marbles on the edges of the circuit. Something strange goes on, and it makes it very, very slippery indeed. Or indeed, it could just be that there was 12 hours of racing, and that was always going to happen no matter what the conditions. That probably is the closer description, but it shouldn't be such a problem this time around. What's going to be more of a problem for everybody else, I think, is SRT Orange 1 and 2. It's always difficult to overhaul teammates who are going to be working together, as these guys surely will be, at the front of this race after a great late couple of laps in qualifying.
Yeah, and, you know, the transition between qualifying and the race can be a difficult one. The warm-ups there was almost like a bit of a buffer between the times. It doesn't really give the drivers a chance to dial in, but we'll have to wait and see if that one lap pace can translate into some race pace. 35 minutes on the clock will mean that it's not the longest race. It's kind of that awful middle phase between sprint race and a slightly longer form race. But everybody here is going to be absolutely, clambering into the opening couple of corners to get a good launch. Going to be absolutely critical as the teammates will get us going.
They certainly will. The front three rows stay very close together. Everybody else seemingly not that interested as they make their way through the final corner. Surely they're going to go immediately, and Tyler Graff was waiting for it. And so he's already alongside Furman, but no, can't quite stay alongside. So the front four will get single file, and this is likely what happens as the green flag waves here at Bathurst. You get single file into Hell Corner first time round because of the early start by the leaders. Helps to keep things a little bit cleaner, especially up front. Let's look in the long shot, look in the distance. Everybody getting through nicely. Nice and cleanly, and there is cooperation early on here. Tyler Graff immediately gets to the back of the championship leader, Brett Furman, and just pushes him down Mountain Straight on the way towards turn number 2. And it will be single file up front. A very orderly start indeed for these drivers.
Yeah, nice to see that they're not, all over each other into some of these more difficult corners as we get onto the mountain for the first time. It's good to see that they're single filed out. It'll be interesting if they continue in that manner up towards the cutting. It looks like if they one by one emerge through, that they're all going to make it through the opening lap. Kiss of the wall though from Jared Keane. You don't really want to be making contact on the wall from the lead in the opening lap. That's not going to settle the nerves.
No, certainly not everybody else's as well, as they envisage the prospect of the leader crashing in front of everybody and causing a massive jam, but thankfully that hasn't happened. Down the hill they go. It's where Jason Park went off in qualifying. We just saw a moment ago, and there he is in the Acura, right up behind Graff. I mentioned in qualifying he was fast through that bit of the circuit, and he's proven it again there, right on the back of Tyler Graff, but not quite able to go through that time round. We're not going to see any overtakes on top of the mountain at this early stage in the race, certainly not up front. There they are in the background. Colin McKenzie involved in this leading group as well, with David Buster third in 10th, so very telling for the team's championship. First and second for SLT Orange, 9th and 10th for Lunatic Racing at the moment.
Yeah, not what they need whatsoever. Mackenzie and Bush have a lot of work to do to work their way through the order of a circuit where, I mean, time almost evaporates away from you. So many long straights where you really can't do very much in terms of making moves. As Walden went around at the cutting, nearly sailed it out. Did he tow back? Oh dear, that's
well done. Well, nearly well done for everybody else. Good avoidance. Oh, look at that Mustang, it's too big. There he goes, pulls through on the inside there of Warden. And he will get back going again. Yeah, I mean, it's the worst place in the world motorsport, I think, to spin, other than if you well, certainly of the tracks available on iRacing it is, because, right across the circuit like that, there was almost no space at all. Look at that. The Mustangs barely fitting through that gap there. A lot of the other manufacturers did as well, so it was it's a terrible place to spin and terrible thing to feel as well, because Warden didn't really know where to go backwards or forwards in the end, just stayed where he was, which is probably the best of a bad bunch of choices.
Yeah, it's one of those times where as a driver you just have to breathe in, don't you? And that makes the car a little bit slimmer, enabling you to get through, not the biggest of gaps. And lucky really that Walden didn't have to move, and yet had a perfect gap in the inside and the outside. Allowed people to go around. Could have been much worse, but the Constantina effect clearly came into effect. Thankfully, there was no pile-up. You know, the amount of times we've seen pile-ups in circumstances very, very similar to that. Is almost surprising that all of the drivers have worked their way through, but then again not surprising, because these guys know each other so well, have been racing with each other for such a long time now and have great respect for each other. It's great to see that we've had pretty much everybody make their way through the opening lap and a half without much more than a hitch really, which is really perfect to see.
It is great to see. The front four though are showing themselves to be the quickest in the field. I suppose that's not a surprise considering we just had qualifying, but doesn't always happen like this. Front four get away from the rest, and then Slipstream will just tow them back together again on Conrod Straight and up Mountain Straight as well, as they make their way back up towards the climb for another lap, as they will do in a few moments' time in towards the chase. Somebody went off here clearly. See the tyre tracks through the grass there, and somebody rejoining straight back on the exit of the corner. We'll try and investigate that, but it seems that everybody has got through the opening laps all right. Only 32 started here today, unfortunately. Drew Duesse, of those who didn't qualify, we saw the list at the back end. Only Drew Duesse got onto the starting grid and started this race. Mark Bray, unfortunately, is out of this race already. That is a shame to see for him as we focus in on Group 2. Nikos Zanadakis has become a bit of a cork in the bottle here, I'm afraid, for a group that goes right the way back outside the top 10, a little bit further down. As Jason Park also loses the front train as well, so some minor changes happening up in the top 10 at the moment.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how much they affect the overall stature of some of the drivers in the race over the coming 5-10 minutes as they start to settle into these groups. Tyler Graff is not settling into P3 though. He has been so close on a couple of occasions to some great results this season. My mind thinks back to Zandvoort, where the pit lane infringement cost him possibly a win, and he wasn't, well, he was madly worked up about that at the time, but he's back again. He's showing why he's at the front quite often, and he's looking to try and unsettle the two teammates at the front. Interesting that he is the only driver at the moment to go with them. He may be the disruptor for Keenan and Thurman. How much will they fight in? They're already in a very good position for the championship.
It is reduced to a front three now at the moment. Lots of gaps changing, not too many positions changing at the moment, and Ricardo Delgado is going to be one of those who's most displeased about that. He's right in behind Nikos Zanadakis at the moment, and you'd think he should be able to use some of that Corvette power to get past the Porsche, but I haven't really seen him anywhere near close enough in these first 3 laps to actually manage that. So he's struggling at the moment, and he's seeing the championship go away from him. With Thurman just up in front, Ricardo Delgado would be out of the running as things stand, because he's outside the top 5. So it would be a very damaging day indeed for Delgado if things end as they do now. He's got to find a way to climb some of these positions and get back towards his championship rival again.
Yeah, and these are really the stages of the race where, even though we're only 5 minutes in, you need to be making moves now, getting yourself in good positions towards the final quarter of an hour. Jay Steffi's taking a bit of an agricultural route through turn number 1. He's cutting the grass on the exit. If it affects him too much, it's going to give Colin McKenzie a bit of a run here. I'm not too sure how much he'll be able to gain or whether he'll be able to make a move, but as they run their way down in towards turn number 2, he will have to stay behind and won't be able to benefit at the moment. But yeah, getting yourself into the good positions now and lining up some of these moves at this stage is going to be really important, because you don't have that time. You don't really have the luxury that you do in a 1 hour race to spend about 20-30 minutes getting yourself into a rhythm, being able to pick off a couple of drivers without making too much of a fuss. You have to be right on it immediately, and already, even though we've only had a handful of laps, we're already getting to that stage of requiring drivers to get into better positions to get themselves further up the order, and that'll be important particularly for the teammates of McKenzie and Bush, who's at 9th and 10th.
They are in trouble right now as far as the team's championship is concerned. They're going to lose a lot of points if things stay as they are. This is further back. Dale Pedersen at the front of a group here, 3-driver group. Sully Sad and Sean Stecker just in behind him. And then there's a bit of a larger gap back to Pete Measure, who again is losing 5 points to Colin McKenzie in the AM Championship, as we'd expect. New lead for Jared Keane is 1.2 seconds. So he's getting away out front while Furman and Graff battle it out. Felix Feliz is on the back of Ricardo Delgado now as well. Here goes Feliz maybe. Down the inside, no, can't have a go. And again, Steffi versus McKenzie will happen in towards the chase as well, but no changes there either. Very quiet opening to this race, it has to be said. 4 laps gone, and not too many positional changes at all. In fact, I'm not confident there's been many at all in the top 10 actually. If you look at qualifying versus the race, I'm sure there will have been some change off the start, as there always is, but after that, been very calm indeed.
Yeah, we saw off the start, didn't we, that there wasn't really much in the way of moves in the opening couple of corners. Everyone was almost happy to settle out single file from the off. You don't see very often, but the symptom of that is now that we haven't seen too many of those moves inside the top 10. I think we might see something happen between Jay Steffi, McKenzie and Bush in the not too distant future. Steffi looks a little bit more vulnerable than he did a couple of laps ago, dropping off the back of Felix Feliz. Means that the slipstream effect isn't helping him out as much as it's helping Colin McKenzie. And the AM Championship leader may be having a go. So look at the confidence he has through the cutting in comparison to the pro driver. He's just not able to find any kind of line through, but he's clearly got some kind of pace advantage. And he's looking for a bit of a move, not through McPhillary Park though. It's always a bit of a dangerous place to make a lunge.
And also, given his situation, both in this race and in the championship, he's so not incentivised to have a go either. So more than happy to sit there. Although, I guess team's championship. Sean Stecker's started to drop down the field now. Is that connection problems, or is that an incident for real there? I'm not entirely sure, but he's dropped back to pit lane along with Mark Bray, who is out of this race. And we may have something to investigate there. We'll get back to on that as Charlie Graf now makes his way out of Forest Elbow, right in the slipstream here of Brett Furman. Here he goes, perhaps in towards the chase. No, not again. And he continues to stick behind. Now, Colin McKenzie is going for a move on Jay Steffi in the background. Has he finally got it done? It looks like he has. And so, what you were mentioning earlier, I was saying that McKenzie will probably be a bit more cautious because of his standing in the race or whatever, but he's gone for it in the end. Sean Stecker, this is what happened to him. Crash at McPhillamy Park. Thankfully, he ends up off the racing line, holding the brakes and staying out of the way for everybody else, but that's a classic Porsche spin, if I could say, at high speed.
Yeah, it's the rear end's walking around a little bit more. It's not as stable as it really needs to be for comfort in the car. And Sean Stecker there, not going to be overly pleased, but maybe back out onto the circuit. A little bit of damage repairs to on go there, front end and rear end coming into contact with separate walls. It's the unideal moment. It wasn't even a big spin, but the nature of the circuit, of course, with Barry very close here at Bathurst, if nothing else protecting you from the drops around here, mean that if you make just that little bit of a mistake, it could go very wrong very quickly, and the car could be looking a little bit worse for wear. Steffi's pace is looking a little bit worse for the time being. Colin McKenzie getting a good launch past him. Even Bush wouldn't mind getting the move done either, and he's right on the tail already.
You can just see the way this is developing here. It's exactly how you'd expect, I suppose, in this group. McKenzie and Bush do seem a bit quicker than Steffi at the moment, but it's about finding a way through, which is actually a bit more difficult than you'd expect here at Bathurst, to be honest with you. The chances are not quite as plentiful as you would think at times. So make their way now back down the other side of the mountain and towards the start-finish line. Here's Thurman and Graf again. Every so often Thurman gets a bit closer to Derek Keane. He gets back in the slipstream and then he loses all that time again. And Tyler Graf is stuck behind. He's in the slipstream now, on the way towards the chase. He's actually got the fastest lap of the race so far, but again, nowhere near close enough to actually go through once again.
Yeah, looking like he's almost feigning for a move, but not actually going for it. I'm interested in the fact that Jared Keane's getting away from Brett Thurman here. Was surprised that the 22 isn't giving, a little bit more support to his teammate right now. Thurman is a little bit vulnerable from Tyler Graf, and we know that Tyler Graf can make moves. He's effective at doing so, and has the fastest lap of the race right now. So interested to see that Keane has almost happily and willfully opened up that gap just a little bit further to over a second now. We'll be interested to see if he drops back a touch to help his teammate if the situation requires it. Jensen may need a little bit of help, but that help is going to be coming from the pit lane rather than anywhere else.
That is a big crash for Dave Jensen down at the dipper at Skyline, I should say. There's the dipper. He's carried on though. Fair play to him. Fair play to that Porsche as well. Absolutely battered. But it carries on. It soldiers on. And I think he went past the pit lane last time around as well. I think he's carried on without having to come into pit lane. That's pretty remarkable for Dave Jensen, who loses a few places, but doesn't lose too much in the grand scheme of things. Sean Stecker is back out onto the circuit again after 3 minutes in pit lane. And Dave Jensen is carrying on. Somehow, that car is still handling okay.
Yeah, you can break the car, but you can't break his spirit, at least, the Taki Jensen sport driver. Maybe it looks a little bit worse than it really is as he runs his way through, but that is not coming off the factory.
I mean, apparently you can't break his car either. Oh, well, maybe now you can.
You might there, yeah.
I have a feeling this might end in an even worse crash, to be honest with you. I've not got a good feeling about this. Over the top of the hill again. There he's up over the curb again. Now through McPhillamy. Watch out. Oh dear, you can open your eyes again. It's okay. Now this is where it all went wrong before. Thomas Rep on a slightly different line through there that time round, but he gets away with it. Tyler Graf, meanwhile, is through on Brett Furman. Suddenly the gap's 2.5 seconds. Suddenly Jason Park's got a chance at his championship rival as well. Furman giving him all the space in the world just to allow Jason Park through. Now, that was probably done out of safety for Brett Furman than anything else. He was happy to lose the place in exchange for staying on the road without any further problems.
Yeah, again, but I'm interested in you know, why Jared Keen's pulled away that little bit more. 1 and 2 for the team. You'd almost think it's a no-brainer for, even if Keen is the slightly faster driver, for that lead driver to hold back a bit and just give the slipstream to the driver behind. That's not what's happened. It's given Tyler Graff an opportunity. Of course, it may have happened coming off of Forrest's elbow. It's not too clear because yet we might have to see it again. But with Graff and now Park ahead of Thurman, there's separation between the teammates, and it's not as all, you know, harmony as it was not too long ago.
Now there he is. Finally Jensen comes in. A lap behind schedule. But anyway, he's going to, I would imagine, do some repairs and then get himself back on the circuit again. Nick Bruno and Sean Duhamel are also in. We're actually only 2 minutes away from halfway. That means we'll be, next time round, passing the pit lane at closest to halfway as you can get, either this next lap coming up or the one afterwards. So I'd expect to see a few more pit stops here because, as I mentioned earlier, you can actually get stuck behind someone a lot more easily at Bathurst than you'd expect, and a few people will want to get out of that.
Yeah, there's going to be a fair few drivers who, yeah, they're going to be looking at windows particularly, and you know where they're going to pit, you know, all the little the parts of the race that, you know, aren't as straightforward as it currently is right now. It'd be almost too easy to get to the end of the race without having to think too hard about what to do in terms of a strategy. But as it is, they have to try and work out when the best time to pit is. Of course, not a wide pit window in this series, with it only being a 35-minute race, but going to pick some point to do it, and we're probably going to be looking at drivers coming in the next couple of laps. Extended laps here as well means that there really isn't going to be much choice between the pit stop times, and only 17 laps means that I think we're going to see a very busy pit road on a couple of occasions.
Yeah, not many chances, so yeah, here this time round is option 1, I would say, and so far nobody coming in. Again, the problem with the top order not really able to come in until the guys in the midfield have come in. You've got to wait and bide your time here if you're running up front. Somehow Tyler Graff has got to find a way to get a bit closer to Jared Keen in this race. At the moment on circuit, it's not really happening for him. Meanwhile, pit stops are happening further behind. I think Buck Hamilton is in, is he? No, it's Ian Cabana. Buck Hamilton's carried on. Kevin Berkvist is in. The reason why John Duhamel came in, by the way, with Dave Jensen is because he had damage repairs to do, so that's not really a scheduled pit stop, but these guys certainly are. Cabana and Berkvist, but it's probably has something to do for these two, the fact they're teammates. That's a strategical ploy, I would have thought, but they're the only, or two of the only drivers to have actually made a stop here before halfway.
Yeah, it was intriguing that that is the case. I don't know why you wouldn't extend the stint longer at Bathurst. You don't really want to be getting yourself stuck behind anybody at all. You can lose so much time over the mountain where it's almost impossible to make any kind of move. So, you know, I'm surprised to see drivers coming in this early.
Oh, no!
The drivers go longer.
Zanatakis smacks the wall at the highest points, well, one of the high-speed corners on this circuit down at Reed Park there, or Sulman Park, as I should say. He spins to the inside of the circuit, smacks the wall on the left-hand side, and that is a big accident for the first time here this afternoon for someone inside the top 10. A huge crash, but thankfully no one else has caught up in it, but again, a Porsche at high speed losing the rear end with dramatic consequences for the number 7.
We got a great view of it, didn't we? From the car behind, that rear end going, the left-hand side, or the back of the car touching the right-hand side wall, and that kicking the car towards the left-hand side. Could have been worse, and lucky really that there's a little bit of grass there. Almost allow space for the crash to happen. Everyone's going to get through cleanly. Dale Pedersen and Solly Sad for a moment there looked like they may have a couple of issues, but Anadakis gets through, but, you know, out of contention now.
Unfortunately for him, he is out of the running for this race, that's for sure. With 16 minutes to go, they continue on. 8 laps to go in that case. Pretty simple to work out around this circuit. This is Sean Stecker again. He came out the pit lane a lap down not so long ago, and well, he's been off the road again. Here comes to a stop, and he's unfortunately come in and retired after this, so he's decided he doesn't want to get in everyone's way anymore. and the is good. Well, there you go, toes back to pit lane, and that's the end of that for him. So unfortunate, but maybe the right choice as far as he was concerned there, just to stay out of everybody's way there, Sean Stecker. Meanwhile, Mackenzie, Steffi and David Bush III continue on. That crash for Danadakis, by the way, gave Lunatic Racing effectively 2 free points, so they'll be pretty pleased about that.
They may be, but it's not good at the moment with Keane and Thurman in 1st and 4th, and you know them running down in 7th and 9th. So it's a couple of free points, but realistically they're losing so many points that we could be talking about the championship all being won by the SRT Orange team by the end of this evening. They almost need to hope that something else happens to Keane and Thurman. I mean, they have seen Thurman drop from 2nd to 4th, but they need something else to happen, really. Get themselves back into contention. Mackenzie's trying to pull the pace, and he's doing a good job of it, but he's still a couple of seconds behind this little duo of Delgado and Felix Feliz. You expect to see them emerging over the crest of the hill. Time for them to gain, though, but again, not a million years. 15 minutes here at Bathurst can disappear in a heartbeat, and when you think about there only being, you know, 2 or 3 clear-cut opportunities on the racetrack for every single lap. There's only 7 laps left after this one, so opportunities are going to start to run thin far quicker than you would see at other circuits.
It's probably a good thing the race doesn't go for a million years. Yeah, who survives longest? I suppose. Meanwhile, into the pit. Oh no! Not even sure Felix Feliz was sure whether he was going in or not there, but eventually decides against it, along with the rest of the top 6. And the 3 just in behind join him as well. So there's your battle for 5th and the battle for 7th. Still these guys in the top 10. Oh, and off! That's Brett Furman, the championship leader, and he's smacked into by Felix Feliz. Brett Furman was having a very calm and comfortable day here, and all it's taken is one mistake through Hell Corner for this to suddenly unravel for the championship leader. He brings a load of gravel onto the circuit as he tries to rejoin, and his car's finished. His car is absolutely toast. He's had a big accident here, and that is huge for the championship. Absolutely massive. Jason Park suddenly up to 3rd place, and he's got a massive chance to gain big points now on Brett Furman, the championship leader.
Brett Thurman's going to have to take his drop round unless he can recover some kind of a little advantage from the rest of this race. What happened to him? Did he touch the grass? Is it the white paint? It's just a spin. It's just a lazy spin into the middle of the corner and then gets collected at the rear. I think without that rear contact, he probably would have been okay to survive with the car. But Brett Thurman, I mean, this could, with a little bit of maths here, put the title battle going into next week to a point or 2, and he may not even be leading it.
Wouldn't that be extraordinary? He can't take his drop week this week, by the way, because his worst finish was at Daytona. I was trying to say all the words I needed at once there. His worst finish was at Daytona, and that was a 34th place finish. There's only 32 people in this race. So, oh dear, and Jason Park's now stopped. Can you believe it? Can you believe this? Drama here at Mount Panorama. Jason Park now joins his championship rival in the pit lane, just as he was gifted a lifeline in this title fight. He's thrown it away, and Jason Park is now out the running as well. Now who else do you look to? Is it Ricardo Delgado, David Bush III? Is it Sully Sad? Goodness me, this is big drama. It's Jason Park. He smacks the wall almost as hard as Brett Furman was hit there, and he's got damage now as well.
I don't think we can really believe what we're seeing right here. Steph is into the pit lane and Mackenzie's into the pit lane. That's the planned pit stop. I mean, everybody is coming into the pit lane, it seems. Delgado, Pedersen, Sad. Delgado, though, this is an incredible spot for him to now be in. 50 points behind coming into this race. Needs every single point he can get tonight. And he's being handed a chance on a plate. It's not going to be good enough to get him right towards the sharp end, but he is going to, you know, scythe into that gap in terms of the championship lead. Absolutely incredible. I don't think I could have envisaged after 20, you know, it's fair to say relatively mundane minutes at the front, we'd have both championship contenders in the pit lane and a lap down. Crazy scenes.
Absolutely crazy. Ricardo Delgado comes out in 5th. Just ahead of Colin Mackenzie. Jared Keane is just up ahead. And it's great news, by the way, for Lunatic Racing in the Teams Championship. I'm going to have to get a calculator out, and I fear in the next 10 minutes it might be steaming, because there's Going to be all sorts of maths going on here in the next few moments. We'll see whether Thurman and Park can actually get back out on the racetrack. Thurman's been in there for nearly 3 minutes now. This is what happened to Phillips. I mean, you can't really blame him for this. He is the one who makes the contact, which I agree with you, is the decisive bit of contact as far as Thurman's concerned. But, you know, you can't expect him to do much more with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's nowhere for him to go, really. I mean, he can brake on the outside line maybe a tiny bit more, but that's nitpicking, and he's on the grass and the gravel. He's not really able to slow the car down at the same pace that you would be able to on the tarmac. So, incredibly disappointing for him to get caught up in that, and also frustrating because, you know, really it's no fault of his own. Thurman's spin that he has caught himself up in. So, yeah, crazy season. I cannot believe we've had Jason Park spin around as well. I think moment down here at the Forest Elbow as we follow some of the leaders through is almost more surprising as we see another spin. Who's that? I'm not too sure. Awful place to get stuck the cutting. Dave Peterson at the bottom of the screen. Is he going to be able to get out of that one safely? He's going to have to do a 5-point turn, it seems.
He will just about get it out and going again. The good news for Thurman and Park is that they've done the required distance to get classified and get points, so they will at least score something from this, no matter whether they get out again or not. And Felix Foley is the same, who is stuck down pit lane. Here's Christopher Ryan's into pit lane right now. Oh dear, well, he's not got that quite right, but anyway, he's in and he's done. Tyler Graff then out into the lead. His pit stop only 10 seconds. Jared Keynes was 21. Now, again, more unanswered questions there. Where on earth has that come from? And even so, losing 10 seconds, why is it only costing 1 place? David Bush, the third, is still in third. But where is he going to come out? There, oh, well, he is going to come out third. That's a great long-run strategy from him. And now suddenly he's on the podium. Suddenly he is a big name who could get himself involved in the championship. I just don't know what to think anymore about all this. This is quite remarkable. Bush and Delgado are putting themselves into second and third in the championship, ahead of Jason Park as things stand.
The thing that's almost unfathomable about this race is we had 20 minutes of relatively quiet, calm, mundane racing action. Everyone was kind of happy at the front, passing up the opportunities, not necessarily pushing them. All of a sudden, we've got the two top title contenders, out of contention. We've got David Bush III, who's part of the team's championship or part of that battle, up to third suddenly. Colin McKenzie's into fifth as well. Everything, it seems, feeling like it's turning on its head. Like almost out of sight and out of mind, quite frankly. 8 minutes to go in this race. What else can happen to add on to the chaos that we're currently seeing? Jared Keane not winning the race, Tyler Graff winning the race, and Bush is third? I mean, if you told me that was the order 10 minutes ago, I'd be slightly concerned for your predictions, but here we are.
Here we are, indeed. There's Jay Steffi. Got the best view, probably, at the battle for third place here, which is going to be the one to watch for the remainder here. Delgado's the one under pressure from McKenzie, who, is going to be sympathetic to Delgado's championship cause, of course, but far more sympathetic to his own team's championship cause that he's currently racing for, alongside David Bush III. So it's going to be a big battle here. I will do the calculations in a couple of moments, by the way, as to how many points they're going to gain, but it's going to be pretty significant here for the team's championship. They've already had a poor round at Daytona, so SRT Orange are not going to be able to take this as their drop. They are going to be significantly out of pocket as far as points go here. Jay Stevie got a good run there, though, out of turn 1, and so all of a sudden it's Colin McKenzie who's under the pressure on the way towards turn 2. Just hold the inside line here and you should be okay. Well, Steffi says, actually, don't bother with any of it. Actually, I'm just going to push you. Or is he? Now he looks to the inside, and no, he won't go for it. So McKenzie is not punished for the error through turn 1.
I mean, Jay Steffi made a mistake through turn 1 a few laps ago, and Colin McKenzie wasn't able to punish him back then. It's almost a repeat, just the roles are reversed this time around, with McKenzie staying ahead of Jay Steffi for the time being. Steffi with a bit of a difficult run through the cutting as well. He dropped that little bit further back. A handful of laps to go when they cross the line. Will be 3 more at the end of this one. So opportunities running out if McKenzie wants to get to the top 4, if Jay Steffi wants to get himself back to the top 5. Championship ramifications with every single point now. Of course, with SRT Orange almost walking it home for a title, it seemed, in the first half of the race. That has turned on its head, and out of the back end of the top 10 into the top 5 has emerged David Bush and Colin McKenzie for the Lunatic outfit, are they able to get maybe a 3rd and 4th from what was a 9th and 10th early stages? That would be incredible if they were able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. This race has absolutely turned on its head in these last few moments. 3 laps to go, by the way, where we get to the line here. And at the moment, Furman and Park are still in pit lane. Philip Felice has not returned. He is out of the race. If Thurman or Park can get out in front, then one of them will gain 1 point on the other. It's going to be no more than that. They're going to finish 28th and 29th at the end of the day. That is going to be absolutely unbelievable. Here's Dave Jensen, who's been in his fair share of problems as well. He goes for a very similar spin to what Nikos Zanadakis did, but even after their incidents, Zanadakis and Jensen are both going to finish ahead of Furman and Park. It's just the weirdness of this race.
I still can't believe that this is a weird race. I mean, the first 20 minutes were as regular as they come, quite frankly. It's all kicked off in the last 10-15. But, a couple of drivers having those issues right at the back of the field. They're just picking up some minor points for their cause. Lucky that we didn't see a bigger crash there with Stecker in the wall and reversing and trying to get himself back out and pointing in the right direction. Lucky for everybody to avoid that. Hopefully there's no more of that as we continue onwards towards the end of this race. But battles galore still on the circuit. There was so much left in the air as to who's going to finish where in this race. Sully Sad going for P7 is one of those battles between this battle for P5 and the battle for P10. In fact, is that Pedersen? Oh, I think Pedersen's reset to the pit lane.
Dale Pedersen has indeed reset to the pit lane. I wonder whether he was spun in the way, and so for towing, there's a better way to get out of the way than it was to wait for everybody to eke just around him. We'll wait and see on that when we get to it in a few moments' time. But not a good end to the day for Dale Pedersen by the looks of things, as the drivers top 5 now, top 6 indeed, make their way out of Forest Elbow and back out onto the Comrade Straight again. Doesn't look like too much is going to change here, but goodness, there's going to be a big day of gaining here for the likes of Delgado. There's Dale Pedersen. Yeah, oh, and there you go. Stuck in the most awkward place on the circuit, decided that towing was a better thing to do than waiting for everybody to go past, as I suspected.
Yeah, and I kind of backed that decision. Very horrible spot to find yourself in, and even though there were no cars coming just yet, I think he could see that there was going to be a bit of a problem, and if he was a car coming up, you wouldn't really expect someone to be playing hide and seek on the exit of the corner. So lucky enough, towing it back to pit lane. Just disappointing for him to drop out of the top 10 to gain as many points as he otherwise could. Incredible now to see that we have got 6 of our AM drivers, so the top 13, and of the top 16, it's an 8-8 split, which we don't see very often, but with the casualties that have fallen by the wayside time and time again so far in this race from the front of the field, it's given the likes of Davis, Medria, Hamilton, Cabana and Bruno a chance to battle it out for a top 10 result in this race. Davis and Medria wouldn't mind getting these good points for them. They may not be fighting for the championship, but it could give them a good chance of getting that little bit further up, maybe a top 3 for them by the end of next week.
This is the big group further down in the pack for 9th place. It's actually Nikos Zanadakis at the front of this group. No, it's actually 8th now. You can still see the damage on the front end, but he's still going all right. Is Zanadakis at the moment as we go on board with Buck Hamilton in the Corvette. I did some maths, by the way. The team's championship, as things stand, will be down to just 3 points in favour of SRT Orange. That's if the race was to end with these finishing positions as they are right now, with Lunatic Racing gaining a whole load at the end of the day. So it's a lot closer than it was at the start, that's for sure. And further up front, Delgado would be gaining about 20 points, as would David Bush III, so they'd be still about 30 behind, with Jason Park just a little bit more behind. Brett Furman has got out onto the circuit again, by the way, and he will be 28th, and that's where he's going to finish, I believe, at the end of the day. So 28th place finish, that's 23 points, and these guys at the moment, David Bush is getting 50, Delgado getting 48, so it's 25 or so being gained. They're halving their margin basically, but effectively what they'd need is for this to happen again next week for them to really be in contention.
Well, I mean, and that's going to be a bit of a long shot, isn't it? Because I don't think we're going to be seeing much of the same comings and goings as we have today. Next week, I think everyone's going to be even more careful if they even can be with maybe a potential Drivers' Championship battle to fight for, rather than the procession that it felt like being, at least in the first half of this race. Final lap is upon us, though. Delgado trying to get past David Bush up towards turn number 2. Is he able to find a way through? It doesn't look like that he is. Just trying to get himself into the mirrors of the number 32. And there's nothing that he can do up towards turn 2. They'll rise up towards the cutting as well. And he can really do to dent that lead for David Bush for the time being. Almost surely going to have to be moving to the chase.
Well, if there is one at all, these two are scrapping over a couple of points here. Should be very important to them in the Drivers' Championship. They'll actually be fighting with each other for second in the Championship, I would have thought, next week. With Jason Park there as well. As the time now does elapse. The final lap is shown. We should get an extra 3 for the Sprint Series a little bit later on. Haven't spoken too much about Tyler Graff in these last few moments, but he's cruising home to a dominant win now in his first win of the season. What an end to the season he's having.
As well in a GT3. It looks like it's coming his way, and what a time to do it as well. He's looked so calm and composed, not really under pressure at all. He was in the top 3 and pressure. Brett Thurman in the early stages managed to get his way through after a couple of laps there, and then lost another position. It all went wrong for him, but Tyler Graff kept himself calm, and on the pit strategy got the lead and hasn't looked back since.
Absolutely. Only the one podium to his name so far this season. Tyler Graff, that came 2 weeks ago. But now he is really on a roll. 3 top 10s in a row, but more importantly, the first race win of the season for Tyler Graff here at Bathurst. Round 8 of the GT3 Fixed Series goes to him after a good run through the pit stop phase to get ahead of Jared Keane, who's going to finish second, and there's going to be donuts at the end as well. Colin McKenzie, meanwhile, has been overtaken by Jay Steffi, as has David Bush III. What has gone on back there? Oh my, what is happening here? Colin McKenzie's just pushed his teammate over the line backwards, and they finished 5th and 6th. What on earth was that all about?
I don't think I'm going to see half of the stuff I've seen in this race ever again. I don't know. I absolutely don't know. David Bush III and Colin McKenzie. I mean, at least it's teamwork. Almost, oh my word, that's what's happened again. It was the contact that was caused by McKenzie, and then he's pushed David Bush III over the line. I've never seen the like, you, and I don't think I'll ever will see the like, if I'm honest.
But how have they lost how have they both lost positions to Steffi in the first place? I've got no idea. On that is, there must have been some previous to that, but anyway, we'll get to the bottom of it later. Tyler Graff wins the race ahead of Jared Keane and Ricardo Delgado, who's back on the podium again for the first time in 2 weeks, actually. He finishes just ahead of Jay Steffi and David Bush III and Colin McKenzie, who lose a few points between them, actually, by doing all that. Sully Sad also gains in the Drivers' Championship, consolidated top 5 now, with 7th in that race, ahead of Nikos Sanadakis, who headed a group, followed immediately by Luke Davis and Pete Messier in 2nd in the AMS. He was in 10th. Then it's Buck Hamilton in 11th, then of Ian Cabana, with Nick Bruno, Kevin Berkowitz and Ian Southern rounding out the top 15. Neil Alexander was next, to Christopher Ryan, with Wardo Warden, Regan Chandler, and Dave Peterson rounding out the top 20. Aaron Sunday was next, along with Drew Wesley, Robert Jeffries and Dale Pedersen on the lead lap. Sean Duhamel, Dave Jensen and Thomas Rett finished 1 down. Brett Furman and Jason Park were 4 down after their incident. Felix Feliz 5 down after being involved in that same incident. Sean Stecker and Mark Bray retired earlier in the day. Let's chat to Tyler Graff then, shall we? At the end of that race. Congratulations, Tyler, on your first win of the season. And a pretty dominant one in the end as well. But what's your reading of that race? It was calm at some stages and carnage at others. What did you make of it?
I don't know. I thought I was going to get my butt kicked with teamwork. Those 2 guys were doing a really good job controlling and keeping the front car ahead. And we were kind of all just draft locked. So it was going really well. And then I started putting pressure on Brett, and the guy just never makes mistakes, and he got loose just a little bit, and I stuck my nose in, and I wasn't trying to pass him going down the hill, and I backed out of it, but it ended up making it so I could set it up on the backstretch. So I don't know. I don't know what happened to Jared. I'm guessing the pit bug may have got him or something, but yeah, they were great to race. They're great fast, great as always.
Now we're about to find out as well. We don't know either. Just what have these final few weeks been like for you in this season? You've seemed to really got your act together in the last 3 weeks. Win here. Last week you were solidly inside the top 10. Week before that you were on the podium as well after a pretty shaky first 4 rounds or so. First half of the season, really. What has it been about these final few rounds that has really gathered momentum for you?
I'm not really sure. Maybe I think I'm just way more comfortable in the Porsche than I was even last year. I think all the stuff I learned driving the McLaren and how I didn't like it, applying that to the Porsche has actually helped in the Porsche as well. So once I kind of figured out those little differences, and I was able to apply what I learned, and it just seems to be helping. The car just felt like it was floating through the, especially through the top of the hill. I don't know what the corner's called, but just on rails through there. So it was great.
Well, congratulations on the win, Tyler, and thanks for coming to chat to us after the race as well.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much. Tyler Graff there, winner here tonight at Bathurst in the GT3 Fixed Series. Jared Keane was in second place, just in behind him. Congratulations, Jared, on a podium here tonight. A very important one, as it turned out, for SLT Orange because of everything that happened to Brett Thurman. But just tell us about your pit stop, first of all, because it was 20 seconds or so in the box for you compared to everybody else. What happened there?
Yeah, I was going to sneak on just one tire, and my pit crew said, "No, I think we're going to give you 4." So I had a nice soda and called the wife, and then pulled out 7.8 seconds behind Tyler. So then I started reasoning with myself, okay, well, I've got fresh rubber. Surely he didn't take any. Maybe I can chase him down a little bit. And the guy was just lightning fast. I'm not sure how I nailed my pit if I'd have been able to hold him off. And I think I came in with like a 3.5 second lead. So he was fire that second stint.
Just what does this mean for the team's championship? Now, I've got to say that the Lunatic Racing have closed in a little bit on you because of what happened to Brett, as I'm sure you're aware. But what are your thoughts going into that final race of the season? I believe your gap will be just less than 10 points over the two of them.
Oh, beautiful. That'll be fun. And lots of nerves and excitement and focus, and it'll give us a lot of stuff to talk about this week. That'll be fun. Well,
we're looking forward to even if you two might not be. But anyway, we'll see. Congratulations on finishing second here tonight, Jared, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thanks again, guys. You guys are awesome.
Thanks very much. Jared Keane there, the winner. Second place, I should say. That's rubbing it in, probably, isn't it? Sorry. Second place there at Bathurst here tonight. Ricardo Delgado finishes in third, just in behind. Ricardo, congratulations on a third place finish and some big gains made in the championship as well. Just tell us a little bit about that race from your perspective.
Oh, it was an eventful one. A lot of incidents up front, behind. I tried to keep my nose clean and just finish the race.
Just what happened on the last lap in front of you to David as you were getting towards the end of that race?
I'm pretty sure he ran out of fuel. I believe that's the only way he got me on the pit. And I'm pretty sure either I don't think he had a slowdown or out of fuel because he abruptly got off the gas before the braking point after the long straight.
That would make sense. His pit stop was the shortest in the field, so that certainly does add up. But, well, Ricardo, congratulations on getting your first podium for a few weeks, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, thanks, man. See you in the next one.
Thanks very much. Ricardo Delgado there in third place here tonight. Overall, all ahead, of course, of Colin McKenzie, who finishes in 6th in the end. First things first, Colin, I've got to ask, what on earth was going on the run to the line there?
David called on the radio that he ran out of fuel. I was already happily in the AM lead, so I just had to get him across the line.
The wrong way, though, which is quite amusing. But anyway, it worked in the end. How do you guys feel about the championship now in the teams? Because you are starting to pull away in the AMs, but the teams championship is really close. I think you've brought the gap now below 10 points. So what do you make of that going into the last round?
Yeah, I was. I saw that Thurman had a little to do, and I didn't even think about it at the time. But now that you just said 10-point gap, now look into the last race, see what we can do here. It looked like it was going to be a little bit of out of reach, but the mountain giveth, the mountain taketh. So we'll see what happens next week.
We certainly will. Colin, congratulations on the AM win here tonight, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate all you do.
Thanks very much, Colin McKenzie there, the winner in the AM class here tonight for Lunatic Racing. The gap less than 10 points going into All Hockenheim next week. We'll see what happens there. Well, it's Tyler Graff who takes his third ever win in the PRL here in his first this season here at Mount Panorama. 8.3 seconds the gap at the line as the weather's really starting to clear up here on the mountain. Hopefully it's the same for the Sprint Series as we get underway for our second race of the evening. Stay with us. 40 minutes of racing coming up from the mountain once again in the PRL GT3 Sprint Series coming up next. Mount Panorama hosts the next round of the PRL GT3 Sprint Series. What a race we've had in the Fixed Series a couple of moments ago. But it's the Sprint Series this time round with an even closer Drivers' Championship in the Pro and the AM standings and an equally close Teams Championship to have a look at as well. Very much looking forward to this one now, Darren. We've seen an amazing amount of drama in the Fixed Series. It's going to be a good one for 40 minutes here in the Sprint as well. It's across you again. Sorry. In the pro, we're running out of time. In the pro standings, it is Elliot Brzezinski leading the way by 22 points. Simon Terrio with Kevin Denier and Chris Beach right in there as well. Guillaume Levesque is inside the top 5 still, but after missing last week, he's gone adrift now. Aidan Young, 6th place, ahead of Uthman Alaoui, with Christian Steinberg, Ryan Pichtel and Kevin Simpson rounding out the top 10. In the AMS, it's just 2 points between Kevin Kiernix and Blake Ziti, with Devon Brock still there as well. Gary Nauman not that far away. Mark Elliott rounding out the top 5. Marshall Skate, Jermaine Warren, Dino Vello, Justin Welsh and Jack and Blankenship have not scored very many points between them in the last few weeks. In the team standings, SimCity Racing are leading the way ahead of Apex Racing Team Advanced Motorsports, with Ferdinand Racing just in behind. PGZ and SCR3 are running up top 5, with Solpec, Beamer Racing Team, Mexico GP, SCR2, SRTE and WSR rounding out the top 10 in the team standings. It's really only the top couple of you who've got to really focus on that time round for this next round of the championship. So the qualifying is just about to come to a close here in a few minutes' time. Bathurst, based on what we just saw, probably a quite important qualifying session again.
I'm not too sure it can get any more chaotic than the second half of that Fixed Series race was, but these Sprint Series guys can always give it a good go, and let's see what they can deliver to us with 40 minutes worth of racing heading our way. Not long left in qualifying though to get lap times on the board. If drivers are wanting to improve, they have to be on their laps right now, or they won't be making any further improvements.
There is the circuit again, 1.5 minutes still to go. That's 34 drivers have currently set times, and we'll all start because there's nobody else entered into the session at the moment. Elliot Brzezinski leading the championship, and he's currently in the qualified session as well. Simon Terrier, the closest in the championship at the moment, is nowhere to be seen. If he's not here, then he's only going to score 23 points or so to date, which will be pretty damaging for him. Kevin Denier is 6th place in the qualifying session at the moment. Chris Beats currently 7th. Guillaume Levesque doesn't seem to be here either at the moment. Oh, Simon Terrier is 15th, by the way, so he is here. But after last week and Guillaume Levesque missing the race, just seemed to me that, Lasharit there has a big moment on the top of the hill. Just seemed to me this is very much Elliot Brzezinski's to lose now, because he's had the most consistent rounds really when he has been here. He's always been up towards the front, always inside the top 10, and that's pretty difficult to beat really with that kind of consistency.
Yeah, and consistency is so important in a series like this. Just to be able to get the points on the board every single week, there's not a big winner's bonus in the grand scheme of things. You know, the difference between winning and P2 is only a couple of points. The difference between winning and crashing is, you know, 50. It's a hell of a lot more. So it really is important just to keep the consistency high. If you're up and down the order week after week, it balances itself out after a while. You know, consistently getting a top 4, top 5 is what's going to win you a title. Maybe if there's a couple of drivers getting the wins and the second places every single week, you're not going to be competitive as much. But you know, if there's a bit of a rotation of who's being able to win some of these races, then just getting yourself right to the sharp end, or towards the sharp end, and being in that conversation week after week is really the best thing you could do for yourself.
The checker flag waves on the circuit. Not sure how many other improvements there really are going to be here. Oh dear, well, certainly not from whoever that is in the Acura. Right, that's Kevin Simpson, who has just got a bit wide, and he gets away with it, but he won't be improving from there. There through shot goes Aiden Young in the Acura for WSR Esports. He might be improving. Just in behind him, Uthman Alaoui. He might be improving as well. That's Kevin Denier as well, although he went off through Skyline. He's not going to be going any quicker this time around. Are there going to be any improvements from any of them at this time round? I wonder. Aiden Young will be first over the line of those who are up inside the top 5 at the moment and on laps, from what I can see. We'll see if he does go out there again as Brzezinski goes that little bit quicker as we load in. There's Aiden Young on the way in towards the chase here. He has got a couple of tenths of a second to find. At the very least, he could find himself on the front row of the grid here in a few moments. There's Alaoui just in behind as well. Does Young carry on past the pit lane, or is he going to pull in, suggesting that will be that? No, he's going to carry on. So, will there be an improvement here from Aiden Young on this last lap or not? Well, we're not going to find out. We'll see if the order changes in a few moments' time or not. No, indeed, they're probably not going to improve. Abe Brzezinski has taken the pole position ahead of Antoine Lacherie alongside with Aiden Young and Uthman Alaoui on row 2. Nick Ledecky and Corbin Lenaway are on row 3. Kevin Denier will start 7th, then of Chris Beats with 2 championship rivals there. Jaden Conright and Obaldo Diaz just in behind them. Emmett Lindqvist and Kevin Simpson are on row 6. Keithan Bass and Juan Lemus on row 7. Dave Mendonca and Simon Terrio. He's a long way back in the Porsche. Ryan Puchtel and Matt Stadnwick on row 9, and all Porsche row 9. Simon Sykes and Nicholas Mazza next, and Peter Nobwell with Kevin Kiernitz, the and Porsche qualified from him. Steve Baker and William Fenton are on row 12. Head of Devon Brock with Jason Allen now 26th, head of Joshua Spears, Miguel Angel Fonseca. Gonzalo Cortez 29th, head of Blake Ziti, who's quite a long way back in the standings there. Chris Stewart, Noah Anderson, Nicholas Lopez Gonzalez and Sean Carmody round out the 34 drivers who will be taking to the start. Give you an update there, by the way. Aiden Young was 2 tenths behind on his last lap there. And Uthman Alaoui did improve on his lap after the session ended, but he did not improve any positions, so the 4th place to him. Brzezinski's taken pole in that case by just over a tenth of a second. We'll see a lap from him in a few moments' time, but it looks like a very good qualifying from him as far as the championship is concerned. Absolutely ahead of all of his rivals and pulling further away again.
Yeah, and exactly what he needs to be doing, really, at this stage of the season. Although we said that earlier on at the start of the Fixed Series race after a good qualifying from the champion leader Brett Thurman and his teammate, of course, Jared Keane, and that unravelled somewhat. So he's going to have to do a little bit of a better job to keep himself right towards the top of the tree in terms of the timing tower. And that's going to be easier said than done, but, keeping it calm in the opening 10-15 minutes. And at that point, let's see where he is and give him a good look at maybe getting himself some decent points tonight.
Yep. As he has done throughout the season so far. The warm-up session will commence, and drivers will get themselves back out onto the circuit again for a heavy fuel run, if you like. So actually a few of the Porsches heading their way out. I think that's Chris Beats in the SimCity Racing car just up in front. Number 33, it is indeed. He's really rocketed up the standings in the last few moments. He was inside the top 5 last week after taking his drop week the week before that. That was at Road Atlanta. But Chris Beats back inside the top 5 last week, and he's moving up to 4th place in the championship. I've got to say the battle for second is going to be a very interesting one between Terrio Denier and Chris Beats. Just 2 points separating those 3 drivers, so they're not that far away from Brzezinski, but actually the more interesting one could be the one for second place.
Yeah, and championship battles like that aren't going to come down to very wide margins. It's going to be a move or two that happens tonight, maybe next week, that is going to be the deciding factors in the championship, and that's really what they're going to have to focus on as they work their way in towards the race. I'm also interested to see what's going to happen in the AM standings, with Kevin Kienitz leading the way by a couple of points, but also leading this race in terms of where he's on the grid by quite a few positions, so he could give himself a bit more of a buffer heading into next week. But it's difficult because the nature of the AM class in the Sprint Series is that, you know, they're generally so far back that they don't pick up many points between them, and, you know, every point is a position back there. So realistically, Blake GT just has to finish 2 positions ahead of Kevin Kienitz on an aggregate in the next couple of weeks.
The problem is he has started a long way behind in this one, so that's the big problem he's got. There's Chris Beats in the battle for second in the championship, and one of his teammates, Ryan Putel, just practicing the pit lane. It's actually pretty important to practice the pit lane here. We saw it with Christopher Ryans in the Fixed Series race, and actually very easy one to get wrong here. You're sort of always surprised by how early you have to get onto the brakes. Indeed, Blake Zitties will probably get on the brakes a bit earlier for turn 2 there as well, and otherwise you'll end up in the grass on the outside on the way towards the pit entry there and end up losing a lot of time as well. Didn't see too much of it in the Fixed Series race, but hopefully not in the Sprint Series either. It's one of those things that you do need to practice throughout the week leading up to the race.
Yeah, no, I think this race, more than I think any this season, there'll have been almost unintentional practice going on for some of these drivers. I remember seeing Antoine Lacharit in the top split for the Bathurst 12-hour, unless it was another one, but I don't think there's going to be many of them knocking around on iRacing. So more than, you know, the fair share of really high-end GT3 drivers in this race who will know their way around this circuit this week better than most weeks across the year, and this should be really high quality. They know exactly how to race here as well. I think it would less like to see some clumsy moves as we maybe could a couple of weeks ago.
There's Ethan Bass in the Mustang. He had a podium earlier this season, or was it last season where he got that? Yeah, it must have been last season where he managed to get on the podium. He's had a decent season though so far, a couple of top 10s to his name. And flying the flag for the Mustang is Corbin Lenaway. Had a good start to the season, but has unfortunately dropped away since then. He's only scored 4 top 10s all season, and wasn't here last week, but good to see him back. There's Antoine Lacharit, who was right up there last week as well, winning the race by 8 seconds ahead of Simon Sykes in the end. There were some very big gaps. You know, we asked him after the race, Lacharit, you know, was it down to the Audi or not? Because he is the only Audi in the field, so it's very hard to tell whether it was the car or not. But, you know, Lacharit was very impressive last week. Good to see in the qualifying session, at least here at Bathurst. He's been pretty equally as impressive in the dry weather conditions. We'll see. Well, I'd be surprised if anybody takes the win by 8 seconds, to be honest. But we'll see if he can put some sort of repeat on that performance from 1 week ago.
Wouldn't mind getting yourself a decent point share at this stage of the season, especially if you can get a little bit of consistency going right towards the end of a championship. It's probably the best time to get some consistency going. It's always good to finish strong rather than petering out towards the end of a season. I think that's what a few drivers are going to be hoping to do and build on from the last couple of weeks as we head into this week, and of course the final race in 1 week's time, which is crept up on us, but Hockenheim of course will hold that finale.
It will, and it will hold a bit of a chance of rain as well, at 50%. We saw the rain pretty much the whole way through at Dorrington, so we're almost guaranteed at Hockenheim based on that thinking. But obviously weather doesn't work like that, so we'll just have to load into the session in 1 week's time and find out. But yeah, 50% chance of rain is a pretty big chance for the final race of the season to have a bit of rain in. I've got to say, even if it does come right at the very end, as it did at Jerez, we'll aim for a very, very exciting finish, because it certainly was that time round, all those weeks ago at round 3, I think it was. Very exciting finish indeed that day, as we have a look on the back straight at the beginning of this one. Do wonder whether we got two options here really. You know, a really chaotic start or one that we saw much more like in the Fixed Series race, and I don't really know which it's going to be because I mean, these things are impossible to predict really, but the Fixed Series was almost overly clean. There was very little going on in the first lap, so we'll see what happens for the Sprint Series guys.
I don't think I've really seen as calm of a race start here at Bathurst as what we saw earlier on in the Fixed Series. It just seemed that everyone was happy to go single file. Everyone was just happy to, you know, maintain their grid position for the opening lap. They weren't going to force the issue and risk losing the position. Don't quite know what's happening at the front of the field with the pace car, but this looks like it could be a little bit more chaotic already. But by that.
Really sure what Lasserie was trying to achieve there, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's makes no tangible difference to the race, so we'll just get on with it. The pace car pulls in. I'd imagine Brzezinski will go immediately out the final corner, just as we saw in the Fixed Series. Lasserie can't afford to go too wide. He's got to be attentive. No, Brzezinski is going to wait, and so we are going to see a little bit more action in towards turn number 1. Brzezinski goes a little bit later, and he gets us underway here at Bathurst. Lasserie into second place, just in behind, side by side for third, and this is what happens when you wait that little bit longer. The field stays side by side a little bit longer in the pack as well, but everybody has got through Hell Corner for the first time cleanly, as happened in the Fixed Series as well.
And pick out your racing line on the left and the right. Which one's going to be better? Probably the inside line as we make our way up towards Quarry Bend, but they'll fly down into the corner. Good start for Brzezinski. He's going to cover off Lasserie. Nathan Young will follow in tow. Still side by side though. Far more side by side than we saw in the Fixed Series as they rise up into the cutting. Not an easy place to make it single file. Well, make it 2x2, I should say. Single filing out surely on the exit here, but already P4 and 5 finding side by side up the hill.
Yeah, Alois and Ludecki, they're side by side, and Ludecki's in the wall. Corbin led away and try and come through as well here. As they go through Repark, that was very close there. And indeed, there was contact for Nick Ludecki. Look at the gap now for the 3 leaders. First, second and third as Upman Alois got through. Lenway did follow through as well as Ludecki got into the outside wall. That's what happens when you battle side by side on the mountain. They've got away with it, but that was very, very close.
About getting away with it. They've lost that gap back to the top 3 and they've got a lot of work to do to get themselves back into it. Alawi in the triple four going to take up that mantle early on. I'm not sure whether Lenaway is going to be able to get through, but he might sniff an opportunity with a bit of a lack of slipstream for the triple four. Ledecky as well in there. Miracle that he didn't have more damage. He really looked like he clouted the wall somewhat as they worked their way up the mountain for the first time. Not over for the lead though. Brzezinski is not safe on the opening lap.
He'll hold the lead as things settle down in towards the chase, but Lasserie and Young will be more than happy with that. But as they sit in behind, at least stay with the race leader. Uthman Alois will chase from behind, 4th place. Corbin Lenaway as well, running out the top 5 as they make their way now out of the final corner and onto the front straight. It's all very close at the front of the field. There is the back end of the field. So it's all one long line, effectively. The only gap created was that battle for 4th place that we were watching. Other than that, a very clean start to the race in which everyone has gotten through lap 1.
Yeah, incredible, really. Good to see that everybody's getting through cleanly on the opening lap. Means that there's a nice chunk of battling still to go in this race. Aiden Young, I thought for a second as we jumped up in, maybe making the move, and he's still sitting and waiting behind in the 4-2-7. Not wanting to force this one too early on. He didn't win yesterday in the GT4s for the first time in over a month. He's going to be looking for a little bit of revenge. Of course, still doesn't have a win in the PRL that isn't in a GT4. Hoping to put that right in at the final couple of weeks here.
Absolutely, got a couple of more chances to do so. As Aiden Young got 24 wins to his name, tied with Benjamin Perez and James O'Brien, who races on Sunday nights. See if he can pull away and make that 25 here tonight. As he makes his way now over Skyline, down the Dipper, and front 3 continue to blast away from the rest. Lasserie holds on to Brzezinski early on here. He's trying to get rid of these two, but it's difficult to do that around Bathurst. And so, at the end of a couple of laps, still going to be 3 for the lead, but so difficult for Alois to get back on terms. So difficult for anybody else to get side by side with anybody else either. They've all got the slipstream here and it's helping nobody. Bit of defending from Alvaro Diaz in behind though. Chris Beats has dropped back to 10th place early on here. And this has not been a good start indeed for the championship contender. Chris Beats losing points at the moment to Kevin Denier, who will be in second place. Beats can't get through there either, in towards the chase.
No, I mean, he's just going to have to try and find another place to do it. But opportunities are thin around the track. Outside line at the final corner. Oh, never really works out the inside line. Might go for Chris Beats. He's going to dive to the inside. Ooh, there wasn't a contact in the end. I thought we could have seen a bit of contact. Not as dramatic, of course, as we saw as the contact back at Road Atlanta. But still, there's the chance as the inside of turn 1. Looks like it's going to be Chris Beats' line. The 33 is going to walk into it. Sorry, it's Emmitt Lindqvist on Chris Beats, I should say. And Lindqvist going to walk into the gap. It's just not going to work out just yet for him. Careful of Ethan Bass. He's going to be on the tail.
Side by side up the hill. Diaz is going to get a bit of breathing space now as Beats on the defensive again here from Lindqvist, who's just in behind and then doesn't go for it in towards turn 2. Probably the best idea. No point going on the outside or even attempting that. You'll just end up losing more places really with Ethan Bass so close in behind. And so he has to back out for the moment. But this is bad news for Beats as Elliot Budzinski's lost the lead suddenly. There's some looks up the inside here, but there's side by side for the lead, and Budzinski just about hangs on from Lasserie. What is going on here over the top of the hill? That is a surprise to see.
Yeah, not exactly the positions you'd expect to be fought over on the ride up towards the crest of the mountain. But hey, here we are. Aiden Young just trying to keep himself out of it, maybe pick up a position or two, but in the end has to stick behind, and they will run 1 through 3 in the same order, just with a reduced margin to Uthman Alawi, who is right in this battle once again within a second of Aiden Young. And all of that good work that the front 3 did on the opening lap undone in almost an instant there.
I'll have to try and get another look at that in a moment, but Lasserie is so close to Budzinski at the moment, so close to going through. Surely there's going to be another chance on the way down in towards the chase here. The Audi crouched right in behind the Acura, trying to make a move into one of the most iconic corners in all of world motorsport. Here he comes, here he goes, on a small gap on the left-hand side, through on the inside line, and here comes his teammate as well. Aiden Young's going to try and box him in here as the WSR Esports cars go for the lead. Is Lasserie going to go slowly on the inside to let Aiden Young right round the outside, or are the teammates going to fend for themselves? Round the outside for Young. Budzinski still alongside. Even if Young holds it through Hell Corner, he will get the slipstream from his teammate, and surely he'll have the place as long as he remains alongside. He can only just do it. Alawi, meanwhile, has been overtaken by Corbin Lenaway, although that's not done just yet. You can see that in the bottom of the screen. Here comes Nick Ludecki as well. He's just in 3rd place, just in behind them here. Can he maybe get involved? No, he's just going to get in behind Alawi and try and push him through so that he can follow through here for a top 5 place. Lenaway not letting that happen for the moment. Ludecki just backs out. Here goes Lenaway. It was never going to work on the outside, never going to work, and he gets into the outside wall.
He had the overlap, of course. He was slightly ahead, but it's difficult to really put yourself on the outside line. It's difficult to judge from the angle that we're looking at as well, how much he came across, how much the car on the inside drifted out a little bit from the apex. But Lenaway, either way, it's not really going to matter. He's in the pit lane. You can pick the loans out of it, but the fact of the matter is he is suffering, and the car not looking as good as it really should be right now. Lasserie has got himself away a touch from Budzinski and Aiden Young. Aiden Young really applying the pressure now to the number 91 driver and the Pildenez Racing driver, trying to find his way back through, but at the same time dropping time hand over fist to the now race leader.
Here's the view from the air. I mean, Lenaway's doing all he can on the outside there to try and squeeze Eloy as much as possible. He's tried effectively to get the position, by just squeezing on the outside there of turn 2. It's always so difficult around the outside there. He was doing all he could to hold on to the place, but unfortunately, slight bit of contact made. Wasn't Eloy's fault, I don't think. And that's Lenaway into the wall and back to the pit lane, but that's exactly why they don't take the risk most of the time. It's just not worth it really. But Lenaway not involved in a championship fight, I guess that might have thought he just might as well go for it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bold move. necessarily going to work out in the end. And, you know, we've still got 32 minutes to see if any of these bold moves can work out. Not necessarily the circuit to go a little bit braver. Really, Bathurst is a circuit where you really do have to keep your cards relatively close to your chest and pick your way through carefully, which works in a 12-hour race, which works in a 1,000-kilometer race. It doesn't really work in a 35 or a 40-minute race. We're seeing that this evening. Drivers have to try and force that overtake a little bit more. It's because therefore not working out for them in the same way as if they could craft it, spend a little bit more time trying to find their way through and make it a little bit easier for them in the long term. So, you know, they're the challenges to the circuit. That's why we have a varied calendar, and that's what makes these championships so enthralling. Different strengths are picked up on in different races, and here, being able to effectively get moves done under high pressure is definitely the key message of the day.
Corbin led away on YouTube saying it's his fault as well, so fair enough for owning up to that one. And unfortunately, that's a disappointing way to end the day for Lenaway, and indeed to see our first retirement of the day. Down there in 34th position. Meanwhile, Antoine Lacherit still leads. Might be on his way to a second race win in 2 weeks, but there's still quite a long way to go. Still half an hour remaining in this race. Lacherit at the moment in the championship is still way down, 27th overall, despite a top 5 in the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks in a row, that is, including the race win at Donington Park 1 week ago. Can Aidan Young maybe get into second place here, or at least help Brzezinski to get a bit closer to Antoine Lacherit? It's going to be interesting, but looks like Aidan Young is stuck behind his fellow Accurate for the moment. After a bit of lively action earlier, Lacherit deciding he wanted to get through on Brzezinski. It's suddenly gone away very quickly, and it's calmed down again inside the top 10.
It has. It's very much more of a measured approach from the guys right at the front of the field. They've got enough time to sort it out, but again, as I've been talking about, it's difficult to really wait around for too long. Aidan Young may see this as his opportunity. Elliot Brzezinski with a bit of a difficult exit through the opening corner. Aidan Young is right on his tail. The problem is we've seen attempts being made around the outside, down the inside here at Quarry Bend, and it's not worked out. Is he going to go for it here? Is he going to sit behind? This is going to be important, but he's just going to sit in behind. The carrot was dangling in front of him, but he didn't take the bait.
And again, single file after 5 laps here at Bathurst, as they now make their way through the cutting. So it's this group for first, this group for fourth, you can just see in the background as well. Then a bit of a gap, and then Chris Beach is at the front of the group for 9th place. All been promoted a place after Alois contact with Lenaway earlier on. There is Chris Beach leading the group. And then that goes all the way down to Kevin Simpson, really, and then a few more a little bit further behind. But just feeling these first half of the races that these drivers are really willing to just stay single file. They are not especially enthralled about battling. And to be fair, overtaking again has been slightly more difficult than a lot would have expected at the start of the day. It takes something to spark everything off, as we saw in the Fixed Series. Once that thing happens, then it's racing from there to the end. But you need that little spark first of all before things really kick off around here. Otherwise, it does look very difficult to overtake.
It's never been a circuit that is famous for its overtaking. It's more famous for the fact that it's got a mountain and some straights. But drivers have to negotiate that with other people around them, and overtakes. You're almost overtaking despite the circuit rather than because of it, which is always difficult for the drivers to have to pick up on. Chris Beats is defending. Of course, he nearly got that P8, didn't he, on Ubaldo Diaz? A few laps to go, but all of a sudden it feels like it's unravelled from a touch. Interesting that Juan Lemos has come into the pit lane. Though this feels early, doesn't it, for the 86?
Well, yes, but not the worst idea either, to be honest. The field is so close together that he might be able to come out right on his own down the back and make some time. He will be right on his own. Miguel Angel Fonseca's already been in as well, by the way. So, yes, it does seem early, but I think the fuel limit does mean that you can pit this early and still make it all the way home. I suppose they'll be hoping they've got their calculations right. as Juan Lemus makes an 8-second pit stop, and Fonseca did 9 seconds. They're both in clean air, which is a positive, but yeah, have they got their calculations right is another thing.
Yeah, it's difficult really to nail some strategy, but let's see if they've done it. We saw a couple of drivers in the Fixed Series run out of fuel towards the line. We heard about David Bush running out of fuel towards the line, but you know, no such concerns for a lot of the other drivers on the circuit. I'm just more surprised we haven't seen drivers go longer in this race. We talked about it a little bit in the Fixed Series, didn't we, that going early into the pit lane can put you into that traffic, can put you into some really dangerous positions, and lose you quite a bit of time in comparison to some of your rivals. So surprising at this track more than most, where overtaking is difficult, to almost pit slightly sooner, because you think that the later you go, the more chance you'll have at almost avoiding some of those hold-ups that you could otherwise get.
It's going to be interesting to see at the end of the day whether the running long strategy into the clean air, like we saw a lot of the Fixed Series drivers do, or whether the early stops we've seen are going to be the ones that prevail at the end of the day. Yeah. Meanwhile, Kevin Denier continues to run 6th place. Haven't seen him too much today, but he's been having a quiet day. Just running in this group with Jaden Conwright just in behind him, who's also had quite a quiet day. Denier at the moment is going to be a long way ahead of Terrio and Beats in the championship. He will lose some more points to Elliot Brzezinski, who will still be pleased about how this race is going, I would expect, out of the first corner. Here he comes. He's still keeping Aidan Young behind him, even though he's no match for Lasherit, and nobody is at the moment. He is still extending his championship margin over those who really matter in the championship.
Yeah, and that's what's going to, you know, be pleasing to him right now. It's not necessarily going as perfectly as it could in terms of, you know, his personal race, but for the championship, and that's what you really need to care about at this stage, it's going pretty well. Aidan Young nearly having a look into the cutting. Clearly looks like Aidan Young's got a little bit more pace at the moment in that 427. Just not able to unlock it right now. But Brzezinski holding him off for the time being, and then, you know, sending that gap away from him, Alawi just a touch every single lap. And I think Brzezinski's going to be comfortable where he is right now. Aidan Young will be as well, but I'm sure he'll be a little bit more keen to make a move. And Brzezinski's going to have to be wary of that.
As they go over the top of the hill at Skyline. Just over 24 minutes to go. Should be 12 laps. 20 laps predicted by our timing system here for this race. That will be put into a little bit of question. It's going to be quite close to whether we get the 20th lap or not, but given that we've got Lasherit on such a strong pace at the front, it seems that we will get all of those laps. Chris Beats here, under a bit of pressure from Evan Lindqvist, although it's nothing new compared to the last few laps. He's been under this pressure for quite some time now. Lindqvist right in behind, and Ethan Bass as well. Just outside of the top 10 for the moment. Even the Porsche in a straight line has enough to hang on in towards the chase over the Acura and the Mustang. It has more power than the car in front. Through the chase they go. No chance for Lindqvist that time round. No chance for Bass. And not even a thought there of Beats going on the defensive. He was taking a slightly different shape there. The braking zone for Murray's corner, but he nevertheless takes the racing line, makes his way over the line, and through again into another lap. I mean, you'd be forgiven for thinking some of these drivers in these groups, you know, they forget that there are actually drivers behind them here, because so little that they're under threat here. It really is remarkable how, you know, once something goes off, it's carnage, as we saw in the Fixed Series, but until that point, that you can almost completely forget about the fact there's any drivers behind you at all.
Which is incredible, really. And I guess you've got to be wary. I mean, you'll remember if you spin and all of a sudden you've lost those, or that you've fallen back into that gap, and then all of a sudden, whoa, there they are, in a part of the circuit where they don't expect to find you, and you're across the road, and that could be quite a bit of mangled metal. But it's important to keep the concentration up, particularly around here. It's very easy just to lose focus, just to touch down some of these long straights. But you've just got to dial it in. Probably the hardest part of racetrack, at least on this calendar, at the very least, for the season, is over the top of the mountain, back down the hill. You really are just threading a needle in these cars. So difficult. If you get offline at the start at Skyline, it's going to spiral as you work your way further down the mountain. But yeah, that focus on the concentration, critical here.
or towards the pit stops again, or pit lane again, before this cycle really kicks off. Still only 4 drivers have been in, and Juan Lemus is about to hit the problem of actually finding traffic here after pitting early. We'll see whether that actually happens for him or whether there will be pit stops before it really occurs, but we are approaching the halfway stage now. Can't imagine the drivers will go too much past the halfway stage, but you know, the Fixed Series drivers did go to about 10 minutes to go in their race before they ended up pitting. We'll see just how long these guys go as well. As again, Brzezinski under a lot of pressure from Aiden Young, but no real attack here in this race. Out of turn 1 they go, and on to Mountain Straight. Aiden Young in the slipstream of Elliot Brzezinski at the moment. You know, he'll get close, you know, really close here, but you're almost desensitised to how close he gets, and the fact that might be an opportunity, because there's just no way through at turn 2. I imagine it'll be the same down towards the chase, as long as there's no mistakes from Elliot Brzezinski this time round as well.
Yeah, and I think Brzezinski will know that the pressure is going to come, but Aiden Young also knows that he's not going to do anything silly, and he's not going to, you know, send it at a part of the circuit where it's not very clearly on. Not going to surprise Brzezinski with any kind of move, like up here over the top of Skyline through McPhillamy Park, and there's no really way that you can make a move through here at all. We saw a couple of drivers try in the wet, of course, during the Bathurst 12 hour, but that was bold, and that was in some very difficult conditions to hit the apexes in, so you're not going to be seeing it here. Aiden Young may go for it on the exit of the elbow. Let's see if he gets a better run, better line, it seems, through the corner. Does he get a better run out of the corner? Maybe. Not far better than we've seen so far, and you wouldn't be shocked if they just follow each other along once again.
I certainly wouldn't be surprised. Here comes Young again. I mean, look how close he is, and there's still no chance. Will there be a dive this time round, or is it just going to be another bit of fuel saving here? I mean, it is the smarter thing to do, but it is slightly less exciting thing to do. Towards the chase, no way through that time round. 19 minutes to go. Will either of them blink this time round? No. And meanwhile, Peter Nodwell has gone for a spin. That's exactly what happened to somebody in the Fixed Series race, wasn't it? It's almost like watching a replay of exactly what happened to whoever that was in the Fixed Series. Peter Nodwell, unfortunately, has to return to pit lane. Simon Sykes has also retired, by the way, to join Corbin Lenaway, but that's the first time we've seen someone go off on their own there over the top of the mountain here in this race. But everyone has been doing a good job so far in the first half of this race. Only Peter Nodwell off.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good record from everybody else here. They're doing a very good job to keep it clean. That maybe you could have seen what happened in the Fixed Series race, when particularly for the championship contenders were not going to allow themselves to be almost caught up in anything similar, and making sure that they're getting through cleanly. I am almost surprised by the lack of movement towards the front of the field, but again, it's just that safety net. They know how many points they're going to pick up. They're almost happy to, you know, take that and go into next week with some fresh hope, because the Hockenheimring, a place where there's far more overtaking opportunities, you know, heavier braking zones, wider parts of the circuit. You know, they feel like they can take a little bit more risk there. They're not going to take too much more risk here. And I mean, if they're going to just get happy to pick up the points, then, you know, fair enough to them. At least it means that they can stay competitive towards the end of the championship.
The 2 onboards on your screen at the moment. Aiden Young on the top of your screen, on board with him, and still looking for a way through at the moment with just less than 18 minutes still to go. Down the Conrod Straight they go again. Just can't get anywhere, can you? Now finally there might be a chance for a dive, but just have a listen here. There's your lift off. There's your just feathering of the throttle before the braking zone. He's going to jump him in the pit stops rather than risk the peril of an on-track overtake in towards the fastest corner in Australia, which you can understand, but it is, as I mentioned before, the slightly less exciting thing to do. Just in behind them, Uthman Eloui is not that far behind. But with 17 minutes to go, they can't be too far away from pit stops. Still, only 4 have been in, and Juan Lemus now is in the problem of being in traffic. Noah Anderson's 26th, but Sean Carmody. Then it is Juan Lemus. So he's not actually only just behind somebody, he's actually in a group. And that's probably the worst thing that could have happened to an early stopper.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons why being an early stopper is probably a difficult or maybe a brave idea, because you could get caught up in those groups that are going to be slower than your real race pace, and you're just going to have to suffer with sitting and waiting behind, really. And really, in the end, when everybody's come down pit road, see the fact that you have dropped quite significantly down the order. Joshua Spears, one of the first drivers, I think, to come into the pit lane for what would be more of a timely pit stop. But we're getting in towards the final third of the race, and we're yet to see movement really from the front guys. I think maybe next lap we're going to see quite a few down. So, a prediction that could be very wrong.
That was that not Joshua Spears with quite a lot of damage on pit lane there? Or is he back out on the circuit again without too many? Oh yeah, he's back out on the circuit again, all right. I thought he had quite a lot of damage there, but clearly not. Clearly it's not that bad. He hasn't had to spend very long repairing it, so we'll see how he gets on. He's down in the last position of those still running in the field at the moment as we go on board with Jaden Comm right here in another one of the Acuras. Good day for Ferdinand's Racing at the moment, by the way, if they can hold this on. They've dropped to third in the Teams Championship standings after scoring no points 2 weeks ago at Road Atlanta. They need to get back on track if they want to be involved in the Teams Championship fight, which again is going to be a very interesting one at the end of the season. SimCity Racing are leading the way in those standings at the moment. That's Chris Beats and Uthman Alawi, who are the two involved there. Apex Racing Team Advanced Motorsports are Simon Terrio and Guillaume Levesque, who are unfortunately down Guillaume Levesque, so they're not going to be involved. But Fildernez Racing with Elliot Budzinski, along with Nick Ludecki and also Jaden Comm right here. It's going to be a big factor in the Teams Championship throughout the final couple of rounds as make their way down towards turn 2 again. Danier really close to Ludecki again. No chance to go through again.
No, he's just going to have to, wait again. Ludecki holding firm for the time being. Of course, Ludecki's had a bit of a difficult race, always playing on the mirrors ever since, really. He came through this part of the racetrack on the opening lap, hitting the wall on the left-hand side as they worked their way just through here up the mountain. And actually, it's nearly a similar incident for Kevin Denoyer and Jaden Conright just in behind as they worked their way up towards the top of the hill. Jaden Conright may have kissed the barrier there on the right-hand side. Really would have been a kiss, if anything at all. They really are pushing the boundaries here. There's not really much left on the table for these guys. They are making sure that they are wringing the necks out of these GT3 machines. They don't have to get too much more use out of them this season, so you might as well use the power while you can.
Make their way in towards Forest Elbow now. Back out the other side. The sun's really come out here, by the way, as you can see. The temperature will be rising. It's early in the morning in Bathurst. Here in Sim, so and there are the conditions. 76 now on the circuit. Nothing too concerning for the tyres. I think that's high 20s at Celsius, and so the tyres will be doing okay. But just worth noting that these conditions are going to get generally hotter and hotter over the course of the day. Although only 13 minutes to go, only 7 laps to go. Not long at all left in this race, and still they go on. No pit stops made by the top 23 at the moment. And though Anderson and Sean Carmody have been overtaken now by Ethan Bass and Juan Lemus, who are working their way through, having stopped already. It's a very long opening run from these guys up front, as you can see on the left-hand side, the movers and shakers. Only the lead change for Lasserit and Budzinski is what we've seen change there. And now Adrian Young's going for second. Finally, after laps of waiting, he's always been posing as if he's going to stay behind Budzinski for the whole first stint, but finally now he strikes. Just as Budzinski had been loaded into a false sense of security, Aiden Young makes it a WSR Esports 1-2.
Does that suggest that this is the in-lap now for these guys, because he's pushing on a little bit more, using what's left in that fuel tank? Does that possibly suggest that this is his time to maybe kick on a little bit more. How much fuel has he been able to save? How much time can he shorten in the pit stop? When they make their way down pit road, would not be surprised to see him this lap, although again he may have just seen the opportunity and thought, well, I'll go for it now and try and push on and push away from Elliott. But you know, Brzezinski not letting him get too far away. That gap still opening a touch, 6/7 tenths, bigger than it was for a very long time between Young and Brzezinski. And so Young clearly showed that he did have a little bit of pace in the back pocket, and he's displaying it already, kicking on that little bit more and running away down as they go down the final remnants of the mountain with a 7/10 gap as they merge towards the chase.
It's a fantastic day so far for WSR, who will be annoyed they're not involved in the championship fight, really. They didn't get off to a very good start to the season, really, but they've been scoring huge points in the last 2 weeks. Winners of both of the last 2 rounds in terms of points, over 100 each time. Looks like they're going to get the maximum from this one. And finally now, someone from the top 10 comes in. Uthman Alawi, followed in by Nick Ludecki in number 16. So we've got pit stops, and Antoine Lachery is in from the lead as well. We've got pit stops here at the front of the race for the first time, and, well, the only time. Just over 10 minutes to go, 6 laps to go here as well. Important moments here. Just remember, the Fixed Series leader, when we saw pit stops, made a mistake in the pit lane and came out second, but will Antoine Lachery do the same? 9.4 seconds in the box, no such mistakes, no such traffic for the race leader.
Behind Ryan Buchtel, but I can't imagine he's going to be able to, you know, catch Ryan before Ryan makes his way down pit lane. So not bad at all. William Fenson could get himself involved a little bit, as you can just about see him in the background running through turn 1. He'll be ahead of Ubaldo Diaz, not by a lot either. So the number 7 going a little bit long in his home race, of course, and getting himself into the top 12 at least just for a little while. But for these guys at the front to go more than 3/4 of the race in the opening stint shows how long they've been able to stretch out these fuel tanks. And what can this overcut be like for Aiden Young and Elliott Brzezinski? Can they get any closer to Lachery, or are they going to end up finding themselves at a similar gap back once they make their way down pit lane?
It's the key point in the race. It's that bit of spark at this circuit that you just need to get some of these battles really going here. Not going to see much before the pit stops, and certainly not while the cycle's going on, otherwise you'll really shoot yourself in the foot along with whoever you're fighting with. But other than that, you've got battles afterwards to think about, as Aiden Young leads the field here for the first time this afternoon. Makes his way now down towards the chase, just in front of Elliott Brzezinski with 9 minutes to go. Will he follow in now? Surely these guys will be running out of fuel shortly. They've been going over half an hour, so surely they'll be in. No. Oh, Kevin Denier, I'm not sure that's a legal pit entry, to be honest with you, but he's in, and so are the front 2 as well. Well, hopefully that is allowed, because Kevin Denier there certainly came in over the yellow line, which is normally not crossable.
No, maybe I'm confused. He's in a yellow car. Who knows? But yeah, that's not the ideal line, and I mean, I doubt that's actually any kind of excuse. But there you go. Aiden Young and Elliott Brzezinski get themselves into their box, onto the jacks. You can just about see Lachery coming through, and it's going to be how long in the stop for Aiden Young? 8 seconds. That's a quick stop. 8.3 for Denoyer as well, and that gap has come down. It was about 4 seconds, wasn't it? Down to 2.4, maybe 2.5 on the exit. It will extend a little bit as Aiden Young obviously has to take the pain of getting up to speed a little bit slower through the opening corner, but there's a time gain. There's 5 laps to go. There's a chance, isn't there?
Well, let's see how it pans out. Where are Lemmus and Bass here? Lemmus has been overtaken by Ethan Bass, who's now up to 11th. And he'll be closing in on Emmett Lindqvist on the top of your screen. There he is in the Mustang, just in between the two of them. Kevin Simpson in 12th. So those will be the 3 who are quite close throughout the remainder of this one. The front 5 at the moment, not really that close, or the front 3 I should say. We've got Alawi in 4th place, then Denier, then Ludecki, then Conright in the top 7. But now that the pit stops are out of the way and the final stretch towards home is here, will Alawi be put under more pressure, or will it be a similar struggle for Kevin Denier to get anywhere?
Yeah, and I think at this stage, to see how much further some of these drivers can get up the order. Alawi, of course, still in the top 4, doing a good job to keep himself there. I mean, he's got Basinski, I'm sure, in his sights, but he's had Basinski in his sights, you know, at a similar gap for well over half an hour. So difficult to see if he's going to be able to make a way through and up towards the top 3. But this is a nice little train of cars, isn't it? From really 3rd down to 7th, and Basinski to Conright. Of course, those two former teammates, of course, last season. Same liveried car, actually. Well, they're still teammates, aren't they? But slightly different livery on Jaden Conright's car this season. A little bit more yellow on the back, and I have to say, you know me, Ewan, I won't say no to a little bit of yellow.
No. I'm not sure he was quite confused with the... Oh, that's the deck very close to the final corner there and to the back of the McLaren. It's going to take a couple of laps to recover again. Yeah, I'm not sure about your theory, by the way, that he got the yellow on his car mixed up with the line, to be honest.
No, neither am I.
Not really. You're being serious anyway. But yes, it's a decent livery, I suppose. It's all right. On board with Ludecki on the way towards turn 2. And Denier gets further up the road into the distance there, as through the final corner he just made that bit of an error. He hasn't got time really to recoup that time either. He's got to get closer in these next few moments. And how much pressure is the 444 going to be under here as well? A lot of the waiting round earlier was because pit stops hadn't been made yet and fuel saving was going on. Well, in the end, everyone was doing so much of it that actually it didn't make too much of a difference in this group. It's going to be all about on-track battles now. Does that give the McLaren any more of a chance to go through here? He is quite a lot closer over the top of the mountain, that's for sure.
Yeah, this is a difficult point of the race to be catapulting yourself to the top of the mountain, because you want to be pushing that a little bit more, but then at the same time you know that realistically consolidating what you got wouldn't be too much of a bad thing. Alawi, the 444 in P4, all the fours right now, is ahead of the number 5 in P5, and Kevin Denier is ahead of the number 16 in P6. Nice little bit of synergy there. It'd be nice if they could stay there, and I think all 3 of them would be happy to do so unless an opportunity presents itself in the closing 3 laps here. As when they cross the line, there will be 3 to go. No moves being on. I mean, the gaps have to be within about 0.2 of a second getting onto that straight, the Conrod straight, to have any kind of go into the chase. We're just not seeing that at the moment.
Oh, what is going on in the background there? Nick Ludecki is in the wall, and his teammate as well, Jaden Conright's been caught up in it. There's been a big crash at the bridge here for Nick Ludecki. You just saw the smoke and the bodywork going everywhere in the background there. We'll get a replay of the incident as soon as we can. But 2 teammates have crashed into one another in a big moment for the team's championship. A moment that puts SimCity Racing in prime position here, with their 2 drivers now 4th and 7th in the field, and Brzezinski flying the flag alone out front for Fildernes Racing. That is a huge, huge moment for the team's championship, and it's come with only a couple of laps remaining in this race in the penultimate round of the season here. We'll have a look at it in a moment, but especially cruel for the teammates to be caught up in it.
Yeah, it's devastating, really. I mean, we'll have to see it again, really, to get a full grasp on what happened. But for the 2 of the teammates who are running so well, right in the top 7 as they were, it's going to be devastating for them. Going to present a couple more opportunities to drivers behind. That's what happened to Ludecki. He just drives off the road.
Oh, no!
Oh, my word.
That was, well, a pretty innocent mistake really for Ludecki, but the fact his teammate was right there to be collected was pretty unfortunate. It's also a little bit the way the wall sort of juts out from the bridge as well, isn't it there? It's a very harsh angle that if Ludecki was going in there at high speed, he was always going to bounce out the tyres, if you like a trampoline, back onto the circuit again, and there was always going to be that kind of trouble. Meanwhile, for 4th place, Alawi's going to be under pressure here as SimCity Racing really take charge of the team's championship. By how much? It's going to be Denier who tries to deny him. Down the inside into a 4th place. That's very deep on the brakes, but he's made it work.
Yeah, great move on the exit, though. It looks like Alawi may have a go around the outside at the final turn. Bold to really stick it there. Was he going to... Oh, my word. That would have been a very late move. And that would have been huge contact because there was no gap. And Denoyer had that inside line covered all the way up to the final turn. And in the end, Uthman realised that and backed out of it, going to the outside once again at turn 1. He's ducking and diving. I mean, it's incredible how many lines he's picking at the moment.
It certainly is. He's looking left, looking right on the way towards turn 1, can't quite do it. Now he'll be back into the slipstream again before turn 2, but Denier is not going to allow him down the inside this time round. He's going to protect that inside and, well, doesn't need to that time round. So no chance for Alawi this time around. But this is what happened from Ludeke's on board, by the way. For over the curb, just slides straight into the wall, straight into Comright. This is unfortunate for Comright, but pretty innocent mistake, really, as far as Ludeke is concerned. It's a disappointing result for both of them. They finished way down the field, as does Simon Terrio, by the way. We didn't see his incident, I don't think, but Terrio's out the race as well. Another championship contender, in both for the teams and the overall drivers. So Denier is certainly going to take second place in the driver's standings now with that pass on Alawi for 4th.
Yeah, and it's going to give him an extra couple of points and give him a little bit more breathing room. Of course, started the championship so well at the start of the season, was involved in that photo finish at Daytona with himself and, of course, my goodness, who was it at the front of the field? It was Guillaume Levesque. Of course, it was Guillaume Levesque as they crossed the line, separated by less than a thousandth of a second. It's not necessarily been all his way since that point, though. A P4 would be a decent result as the last couple of weeks have gone, though, for Kevin. Of course, didn't start last week. He's only had 1 podium since that P2 that he picked up in the second round of the season, so this wouldn't be a bad result at all. He's just got 1 more lap to try and solidify.
Seconds tick down, and Antoine Lacherit has managed to squeeze 1 more lap out of this race. Done a good job of getting the pace. Oh, here's the replay of slow-mo that Wilderness Racing fans are not going to want to see. Ouch. Big contact, unfortunately, under the bridge. Not the first big crash we've seen this season, I think it's fair to say. I had what happened almost every week, to be honest with you. Well, to be fair, last week we got away with it, but the week before was the biggest crash I've ever seen. It involved some Acuras as well. And yeah, there's another big one, just towards the end here at Bathurst. There's Antoine Lacherit, though. Haven't seen much of him or heard from much of him today, but he's been pretty effective, really. He was aggressive early on in trying to pass Elliot Brzezinski, but now it's clear why he was so aggressive in trying to work his way through. He was clearly a lot quicker than the rest of the field, and he looks like he's on his way to a second race victory in just 2 weeks here in the penultimate round of this championship.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic race for the 721, you know, getting himself to the front of the field after a couple of laps, now pulling away. He's not looked back. In the second part of the race, of course, Aidan Young in second place, even if it is just the last 12, 14, 15 minutes or so. Since then, Lacherit has just had that pace advantage over Aidan Young, a driver who is by no means a slouch in this machinery, and the two of them have done such a good job to pull away that little bit more and eke that gap out to Brzezinski, to Denoyer and to Alawi throughout the rest of this race. I think they're going to be delighted with how it's gone.
Down the back straight and in towards the final corners for Lacherit. It should be victory for him. It should be 4th for Denier, but he is under pressure there in the background. We'll see them to the line in a moment as well, but for the first time in a few weeks, we're going to get a back-to-back winner. First time since round 4 and 5, a back-to-back winner. This time, though, it's Antoine Lacherit with his second win of the season and his second win in 2 weeks. Again, dominance, this time at Bathurst, as he takes the checkered flag on the penultimate round of the PRL GT3 Sprint Series. Further behind, Denier does indeed hang on from Alawi and takes second place in the standings. He finishes just behind Brzezinski, losing another couple of points. Means the gap on the final day is going to be 25 points between second and third. First and second, rather.
Yeah, and is that going to be a closable margin? Maybe. It's been a closable margin today in the Fixed Series, and of course you cannot drop next week, so everything is going to count in the final 40 minutes of the season, the track where a lot can often happen at Hockenheim. It's going to be really exciting. Also good to see that we've still got a couple of the AM drivers to come through, and that championship is going to be far from over as well.
Absolutely. Didn't speak too much about the AMs here today, unfortunately, but Kevin Kiernitz has won the race, or he's about to, and he will take another 4 points away from Blake Ziti and bring that margin up to 6 going into the final day if things stay as they are. So it looks like it's going to be another good day for Kevin Kiernitz, and he now knows exactly where he has to finish in relation to Blake Ziti next week at the Hockenheim to win the title. Checkered flag waves though here at Bathurst, and it is Antoine Lachery who's taking the win in the WSR 1-2. Field Racing managing to get one of their cars on the podium, but their other cars way down the field. Elliot Brzezinski extends his own championship lead though in third place. Kevin Denny and Uthman Alawi round out the top 5 with Alberto Diaz next. Chris Beats, Emmett Lindqvist, Stephen Bass and Juan Lemus round out the top 10. Kevin Simpson was 11th, then of David Mendonca in a train of Porsches. Ryan Puctel, Matt Stadnick, Nicholas Mazza and Gonzalo Cortez were all involved in it. Jason Allen, William Fenson and Nicholas Lopez Gonzalez round out the top 20. Joshua Spears 21st to the Kevin Kiernitz, the AM winner. Chris Stewart is between him and second place in the AM. Devin Brock, Noah Anderson between him and third place in the AM, Blake Ziti. Steve Baker and Sean Comedy finished on the lead lap with Jaden Conroy and Nick Dudeke retiring late on after that crash that we saw. Simon Terrio, Peter Nowell, Simon Sykes and Corbin Lenaway also didn't get to the finish. Let's go from back to front this time round and start with Elliot Brzezinski, who finished third here tonight at Bathurst. Congratulations, Elliot, on another podium tonight. Another extension of the championship lead as well. How do you feel after that race?
Yeah, honestly a bit disappointed after the race pace and quality pace we showed in practice and qualifying, but yeah, as soon as the track got some heat into it, the car kind of became a death trap. So happy to walk away with a third place, and yeah, like you said, it's nice going to the final round with a bit bigger of a lead. So I'm happy with it. I think the PDR Phil Dennis racing car was really good today. Maybe we didn't have enough, but yeah, it was really good to both Antoine and Aiden for a good race.
It should be 25 points, by the way, in the Drivers' Championship for you, pending any post-race stuff, of course. I'm sure you saw what happened to your teammates a bit further behind. How do you feel as a team this season has gone now, given that maybe with that crash at the end there for your two teammates, the team's championship might be out of the question now? Yeah,
it's a bit disappointing, but I think after last round or the last couple, it kind of is out of our hands. So is a bit disappointing that I think it's pretty much surely done. But yeah, it just shows how difficult the car was to drive today as soon as the sun came out. So it's disappointing for them and for Phil Dennis Racing, but happy to at least get one car on the podium.
Absolutely. Congratulations on that podium, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks very much, Elliot Brzezinski, their third place here tonight at Bathurst. Just ahead of him was Aiden Young, who finished in second place. Another podium for yourself, Aiden. Congratulations on that, and you'll move on up in the championship as well. But third podium in a row, you must be pretty pleased with how the end of this season's going now.
Yeah, definitely happy with that. But, you know, it's just one of my highest results. Also, P3, besides the P2 qualifying at Road Atlanta, that's one of my highest qualifyings. So that was pretty cool to start there in P3. And then I didn't expect to overtake Elliot. I just kind of saw the gap and then went for it. And then after that, I just tried to run down my teammate Antoine, but he was just a bit too far gone. Once that Audi gets out there, it's hard to run down.
We were just chatting to Elliot, who said that once the sun came out, the Acura did get quite difficult. Maybe he was referring to his own Acura rather than the manufacturer generally. But how did you find the car changed, if it did at all, once the conditions got a bit warmer towards the end of that race?
I actually felt my car got better because, like, I ended up, just from experience from the officials, I did, and then the 30 some odd hours I've had of practice for 2 weeks straight, just for this race, because I wanted to make sure I did good for this. Well, some of that includes Bathurst 12-hour last weekend. I just used what I knew from officials, so I just took a rear right, and it paid dividends. Like, it made the car so much more stable, and it was a lot easier to drive. And I started feeling that, so I started getting more confidence. And had I had a bit more fuel, maybe I would have pushed a bit harder, and maybe I could have caught my teammate, maybe not, but that's something I won't ever know for sure, because it's coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Absolutely. Well, it's another podium for the third week in a row. Congratulations on that. And final round next week.
Yeah, I'll see you guys next week.
Thanks so much. And Young there in second place, just in behind his teammate Antoine Lacherit, who now joins us as well. Congratulations, Antoine. Back-to-back victories for you this time round. Got to ask about the pass, first of all. You were the most aggressive man in the field for the first half an hour, I've got to say, and you made just the one overtake on Elliot Brzezinski. What was it about the first 10 minutes or so that made you think you did want to lead and not do what everyone else was doing, which was stick behind whoever they were behind and save fuel?
Yeah, at the beginning I was saving a little bit of fuel and I saw that he did a mistake. So at Bathurst, when you start doing mistake, it's very hard to come back to a good consistency. So I made my move to try to break the gap, and it worked. So it's good.
Certainly did. We've seen you now on the top step in the last 2 weeks. How do you feel the end of this season's going now with the 2 wins in a row?
Yeah, pretty good, to be honest. With the BOP this weekend, it gave the Audi a little bit of a chance, so it was pretty fun.
It's helpful being the only one in the Audi as well, in that case. So congratulations on another win, Antoine, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks very much, Antoine Lacherit, the winner here for the second week in a row here tonight at Bathurst. That's just about going to do it for us here tonight. A bit of a quieter second race, to be honest, Dara, but a good championship situation set up. A good day for Elliot Brzezinski. 25 points now, heading into Hockenheim next week, where he'll look to hang on to the title.
Yeah, and it'll be an interesting race. That's not quite Hockenheim, but it will be an interesting race. It's going to be a circuit that holds a lot of history, and it will hold a lot of history. Well, at least for the time being, GT3 Sprint and Fixed Series winners. It's going to be incredibly exciting as well. I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait.
Absolutely. Chance of rain in the Sprint Series will be one to hang around for. Absolutely. So we will see when we get there. 8:30 Eastern Time, we'll be live on the 4th of March. Make sure you join us for that season finale. It'll be the second of the season finales, by the way. It's finals week next week, apart from on Sunday night, where we've still got 2 rounds to go because we missed a round for the Super Bowl. So we'll be back with finals week in 1 week's time. Tomorrow night, it's Circuit of the Americas in the PRL Truck Series. So make sure you join us for that, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be live for that one. From all of us here at Bathurst, though, myself, Ian O'Leary, Darrell Thacker alongside me, and Ramiro Augustin Cisneros, who's been behind the cameras tonight. It's goodbye from the mountain. We'll see you in 1 week's time at the season finale at Hockenheim.